Damn, I hit the button a little too soon there. About a half a second too soon. Nah, my mistake, no biggie. Anyway, howdy everybody. Glad you're all here. And, well, we'll start with the hellos. Let's go over to the other screen and see who's in the chat. All right. So tonight we're giving away the Cosmic Cookie. That's like a really, really large cookie. And it looks like Quasimodo got it. Howdy, Quasi. Good to see you. Enjoy that Cosmic Cookie. And John Nippenberg, he got the half cookie. Glad to see you here, John. Enjoy the half cookie. And Gerald Stewart got crumbs. Anyway, good to see you here, Gerald. As long as you're here, that's all that matters. And we got Hot Dog Pilot Andy. He says, thought I'd give someone else the glory. This is way back around, I don't know when the hell he started. It's 10 o'clock. So he's probably back in here already. Anyway, let's see. We got Anfield Road Layout in the loft. Lee, how's it going? Good to see you here. And Chuck Shriver, good to see you, Chuck. He says good evening and hello to all riding the Thursday night short line. There you go. Yeah, we got Tom Grassy. Tom, good to see you here. And let's see who else we got. We have Dundas Junction Model Railroad. James, what's going on, James? Good to see you here. And let's see. Chuck says it's windy in 85. Well, it's not windy here, but it's 85 outside anyway. In here with the air on, it's about 74. Fuck that hot weather. Yeah, anyway, good to see you here, Chuck. And let's see who else is here. Clear that off the board. Okay, that's everybody, I guess. James says the gang is here. Yes, they are. So, I got some welcome news. You guys remember last week, Sparky got on and, in the chat, he kept telling me to check my Facebook Messenger. Well, there wasn't anything on it, but at least nothing I could find. But I did get a notification on my email account that I got a donation from PayPal. And would you believe Sparky donated $100 to me? Incredible. I was really shocked. I mean, that's a lot of money. At least for me it is anyway. So the good news is I'm going to take that $100 tomorrow and I'm going to go buy some foam and a sheet of plywood. And I should be able to just about complete my second level as far as the plywood and foam goes. So thanks, Sparky. Really appreciate it, man. That was like a lifesaver for me because I really just didn't have the money this month to be able to pull it off. So that was a welcome contribution. And let's see what we got here. We got NS5107, also known as Chazco. Chuck, how's it going, man? Good to see you here. So that's good news. And I almost went to Home Depot today to get it. But I was burning for some reason. I didn't want to take a chance of getting back here late to my show. So tomorrow I pretty much got the whole day to do nothing. So I'm going to go down to Home Depot and get the foam and the plywood. And, well, you know what I'll be doing. I should have at least something accomplished by the time the next Shortline Thursday comes up next week. I'm a very happy camper, let me tell you. So, once again, I really appreciate what you did for me, Sparky. I know you're not in here yet, but if you watch the replay or something, you the man. So, we got that going. And I didn't really do anything else. I haven't even really been in here since the last show. They got too many other things going on. Matter of fact, I did this. I took pictures of it. Let me bring it up here. What you're looking at is the head unit, or the inside part, that white unit, is a mini split air conditioner. I installed it in our bedroom. I gotta repaint the wall because I had this big ugly wooden light fixture that was about 10 foot long, and I threw that in the trash because I hated that thing anyway. So that's why there's marks on the wall behind there. That's where it was actually fastened to the wall. And the boxes behind those white covers. So I gotta repaint the whole room, I think, at some point. I'll wait till the wife gets back and let her pick the color. Because it's kind of a light blue now, and I think she wants to stay with some shade of blue. We'll see. And we'll go from there. Well, that's the inside unit. And this is outside the bedroom right here. This is the condenser. And of course, like you said, I installed this myself. I would say this is a pretty professional installation. Of course, this is the third one I've done in my house already. I did the one here in the shed first. I did the guest house second. And this will be the third one that I put in. This is for the master bedroom. Now, ultimately, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this is a 12,000 BTU, or 1 ton. I'm going to put a ton and a half in the living room. Actually, it'll be on the back wall of the house, facing the living room. So it should cool the dining room, living room, kitchen, laundry room, and office area all in one. That's why I'm going to get the bigger 18,000 BTU. But before I do that one, I'm going to get another smaller one of 9,000 BTUs, all mini splits, and put it in the second bedroom, which is Debbie's, my wife's, hobby room. So we're going to get one over there, and I'm just going to shit can the big air conditioner because it's garbage anyway. And these things, they're way more economical, and they're so easy to put in. The only thing I had to have help with was to put this one up, because you drill a big hole in the wall to run the pipes through, the refrigerant lines and the control cable. And there's a bracket behind there, it just basically sits on, locks in place. But because of my disability, I had a very difficult time. So I got my neighbor to help me hang it. But other than that, I did the rest myself. So that's a pretty cool thing to do. And I said, that took me about 3 days to get it done. I had some power issues in the house because I was going to tie into the existing light fixture that was there and bypass the switch so it'd be live all the time. Well, unfortunately, it's only putting out 84 volts. I don't know why. There's no dimmer switch or anything. It's just one of those weird things. So I wound up tying into an outlet that's in the bedroom to get the 113 volts that the house normally produces. So, like I said, that took me an extra day to wire up for that. But other than that, it was a pretty smooth installation. Let's see, we got some other people popped in here, didn't we? Yeah, Sparky is a great guy. I tell you what, I was really shocked, when I saw the $100 in my PayPal account. Oh my God, that's a lot of money, man. I mean, it is and it isn't, but when you don't have it, it's a lot, believe me. DWM Trains, Dave, how's it going, Dave? Good to see you here. Glad you popped in. And we got Ray Bertelson. He says, we'll be lurking for a bit. We'll join in a while, but listening for the rant. I don't know if there'll be a rant or not. There might be. We'll see. I hadn't really planned on it, but I don't really plan these shows that well anyway. They're really kind of off the cuff and in the moment, Let's see who else we got here. Anybody else? Hey, Schuylkill River Valley, John. Good to see you, John. It's been a while. And I'm locked up again. I don't know why this does that. All right, it's unlocked now. Let's see, anybody pop in here? Gerald Stewart. Hey, Gerald. Good to see you here, man. Hey, I said hello when you said you got crumbs, but I knew you weren't in the chat yet. Anyway, glad to see you here. So so that's good news for the train room. And also give me something to do too while I'm killing time. So I'll get something accomplished in here because I really couldn't do anything because I didn't really have any materials to work with. Now I do, or will have tomorrow. I tell you though, you know that stuff, I need to get it anyway because it keeps going up and up in price. When I started buying the phone 5 years ago for the lower level, I think I was paying $28 a sheet, 4x8 sheet of the 1-inch pink foam. Now it's $32 for the same stuff. It just keeps going up and up and up, you know. But there's not much you can do about it. So, you know, the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. So I'll get it now and be done with it. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So anyway, let's see what else I got going on. Not really too much of anything. I haven't really said, other than messing with that air conditioning unit, I haven't really done a damn thing all week. I mean, other normal stuff like cooking and, you know, cleaning the house up a little bit and tinkering with stuff here and there, but that's about it. May the 4th be with you. By the way, you know, Sunday is Easter Sunday. Tomorrow's Good Friday for all you Catholics or other God-fearing individuals out there that believe in that. I mean, I do too, but for me, it's just another day, realistically. Especially since I'll be spending it alone, me and my dog. But it came up pretty quick, didn't it? I mean, I almost wouldn't have known about it, but I heard about it on the internet. Somebody was talking about it. So, well, you know, the 20th is Easter. I'm going, oh, damn, I didn't know that. I knew it was this month, but I wasn't sure when this month. So, yeah, Andy goes, there you go. Andy says, Happy Easter, chocolate egg eaters. I always like, I can't eat them anymore because I'm diabetic, but I like those, what the hell are they called? Damn it, I can't remember what they're called now. The, fuck. Little chicks. They're, marshmallow chicks. Those, man, those things are great. Like total sugar rush on when you eat one, you know. But man, I tell you, I used to go out and buy like 10 boxes for myself. Peeps, there it is. I knew somebody figured it out. Thanks, John. I used to buy 10, 15 boxes of Peeps whenever they came out, and I would just snack on them constantly until they were gone. No wonder I'm diabetic, right? But yeah, those things, I love them. But I actually tried one a few years ago. I bought a small box, and I can't eat them. I mean, I literally get a massive sugar rush out of it. So it's like, yeah, we're not going to eat these anymore. It really sucks, you know. That was like the highlight of the Easter holiday for me. Now, when I was younger, as you know, as a child actually, and teenager, I loved the chocolate rabbits, chocolate bunnies, whatever. And you know, hey, Grandpa Rails, JD, how you doing? Good to see you here, and thank you for that count. Once again, somebody's not hitting that damn like button. Come on, guys, we go through this every week. Hit the fucking button. I would really appreciate it. So we got that coming up, and of course my wife's birthday is on the 22nd, so that'd be Tuesday, I think, right? Let me double check that. Bring up the calendar real quick. Yeah, Tuesday. She won't be back until the 30th. I think we got like 13 or 14 days left. So it's been a busy month though. And of course I got, doctor's appointments and all kinds of shit going on this month. Or is it next month, excuse me. The month of May. May is going to be really busy for everybody, but here anyway. Tom Gray said, I always had the chocolate coconut eggs, about 6 inches long, 4 inches tall. Egg shape was great. Don't see them anymore. I haven't seen those since I was a kid either. I was not real big on those, but I know what you're talking about. Andy says, sounds good, Tom, was not available here. I don't think they make them anymore, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I'd say one of my favorite chocolate rabbits was the white chocolate. I've always had a thing for white chocolate anyway. Even today, I don't buy them now because they got expensive, but I used to get the white chocolate, oh shit, what do you call them? I'm losing my mind here, man. I can't remember shit. The Reese's Cups. The white chocolate ones are the best. I think anyway. But a small bag now is like $8. Fuck, I was only paying $5 for them not that long ago. I refuse to spend that kind of money on candy. So, I probably won't be getting that anymore either. It really sucks. I mean, people are really limiting my food intake by jacking up the prices on everything. In fact, I got to go grocery shopping tomorrow, too. Just for a few things. And I'm almost afraid to go because every time I go in the store, the price is higher than the last time I was in there. And I was in there like, what, a week and a half ago? It's just getting ridiculous. I don't know what the hell they're going to do here. Ray says, since Easter is now commercialized and has nothing to do with the real reason, does anyone know why the Easter Bunny hides his eggs? So no one knows he is boinking. Good one, Ray. Good one. A little strange, but a good one nevertheless. Oh, we know what rabbits do all the time anyway, because they're rabbits. So, oh man. The worst part is, I wanted to get a new chair for here. I was going to get another Secret Labs, Well, I can't afford to right now. And probably won't be able to for at least maybe another 6 months or so. So I'm stuck with this piece of shit that I'm sitting on. Yeah, I need to start playing the lottery and hopefully win something. Even if I don't get the really big one. If I just get a few thousand or something, I'd be happy. This is getting ridiculous, this fucking not having enough money for all the shit that I really need or would like to get anyway. So we'll have to see how that goes down the road. But so let's see. So we got that. What else we got going on? I got called. This could be a rant here. Let me do the rant thing. Maybe not. Come on. Is it time for a rant? And I pushed the button like 5 times. Because I don't use it enough, probably. I got a letter in the mail the other day. I got called for federal jury duty. Which, in and of itself, wouldn't really be an issue for me, except that it's in fucking Fort Pierce. I live in Sebring, so it's about 50 miles away, And, I could be called for up to, I think, 10 days. Go down there and not get picked. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but so I wrote a letter. It says, I can't do this. I'm disabled. And I'm poor. I can't afford the gas to drive down there. I can't sit or stand for any length of time. You know, I really, laid it down thick because I don't want to do it, If it were local, I wouldn't mind doing it, It's like, all right, I'll go to the courthouse and find somebody guilty, But there ain't no fucking way I'm driving 50 or so miles to go possibly get picked for jury duty. And if they don't pick you, they just send you home anyway. And that's 100 miles I wasted. Plus $100 worth of gas, which is about a half a tank. Well, fuck that. Now, I realize that jury duty is a civic responsibility of every American. And I swear, I don't know how they do it. I have been picked for jury duty so many times. It's weird. It's like they got my number, It's like, let's get Jim again here, Literally, in Naples, I got picked, I think, 4 times. I went to every one of them. And only once did I actually get seated in the jury box. But last minute, the woman cut a plea deal, and we were dismissed. So I didn't even get to serve that one either. It was a traffic thing anyway. I don't know what it was for, but it's like, what a fucking pain in the ass, So, and then I got called here, I think 4 years ago, twice. And actually, I fucked up and forgot to go. Thank God they don't actually arrest you for that. I mean, they could, but they don't, Plus, it wouldn't look good for them, Oh, let's arrest the handicap guy, But it's ridiculous. I mean, hey, Georgia Sunbelt, Anthony, how's you going? Good to see you here, man. Ray says, tell them you need a ride back and forth. That should be gate to get the. Well, I'm pretty sure. I haven't heard anything yet. I said I wouldn't have to go until June anyway. So, but they said, if you want to try and get an exemption, you need to write a letter, which I did, and explain the situation. I really can't do it, and I really can't. It's like I said, if it was close by, I'd say okay. Yeah, well, normally that's what you would do. The night before. And I think they do the same thing even on the federal level. But if they tell you your number's coming up, you've got to go down there. And you have to be down there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, which means I'd have to leave here about 6. Fuck that, man. You know what? I'm too old for that shit, Different circumstances, I'd probably jump at the chance, but... And of course, the big problem is half the time they don't pick you anyway, I mean, if I knew for sure they were going to pick me and it would be like a one-day event, absolutely, I'd do it, And plus the federal, they'll pay you $50 a day. Where local, you get like 20 or 15 or whatever the hell. It ain't much. Even 50 isn't much. I mean, if I were working, I might have an issue. Of course, I've been picked when I was still working. And, it's like, well, I got my $15 down in Naples, but, well, I was mad because I didn't get picked. I was like, all right, so you wasted the whole fucking day. I got a lousy $15. I could have made 100 or more if I'd have been working. Instead, I'm sitting here looking stupid, and you don't pick me anyway. It's a stupid system, That's my fucking rant. That they need to re-examine the whole jury selection system. The problem with the juries is, I mean, in a way it's good, or it could be, but it's also not really fair. Because each side tries to pick the juror they think will side with either the defense or the prosecutor. I've been in jury trials, where I was getting judged, and it's like, yeah, I don't want that guy. He's just looking at me weird. He's like, he's salivating, and you're looking to arrest me, No, we're not picking him. Which, I mean, like I said, in some ways it's a good thing for the victim or the perp, as it were. But it really isn't, because, you know, it's like rigging the jury. We're going to pick him, him, and him because they look like they'll side with us. You know. And the problem with juries is they don't always use common sense and go by the law. They let their feelings, you know, I don't like the way that guy looks, let's find him guilty. You know, that's bullshit, man. You know? So the whole jury system is kind of fucked up. Just tell them anyone who gets arrested must be guilty. But that's not true. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Good to see you here. That's not really true. I've been arrested for more shit than you can name, up to and including murder. No, I kid you not. I've been arrested for murder, rape, armed robbery. And I was a kid at the time. I mean, I didn't even have a gun, you know. But the cops had it out for me, and, you know, they would make up shit. I always beat it. I never got convicted on anything, obviously. But, you know, it was bullshit. But, yeah, there was some, well, you know, if he keeps getting arrested, he must be a bad guy, you know, or a bad kid. But I wasn't, you know. Just, I pissed off the cops, and they wanted to get even with me. So that's not the way things should work. Hey, Joe Rader, how's it going? Good to see you here. Anthony says, once I tell them I'm an engineer, they dismiss me. They don't want logical thinkers. That's probably true, Anthony. That's what I'm saying. They don't want people that'll deliver a verdict based on the law and common sense. They want somebody to side with whatever side that they're picking you for, you know. And I would have a problem. I mean, if I were lucky enough or fortunate enough or however you want to be on like a murder trial, the jury, and I thought you did it and there was enough evidence, man, I'd be saying, let's try this fucker or hang him or something, you know. He needs to die. So, I mean, they would eject me right off the bat because I'd be biased. But the thing is, if you're guilty, that would be the proper penalty. You know, you take a life, you forfeit your own. But they don't want that. Like you said, they don't want people that actually think for themselves or look at the laws and, you know, determine whether somebody's really guilty or not, you know. If somebody was getting framed, that's all right, you know, not guilty. I mean, I'm a pretty good judge of people, so I would probably get it right 99% of the time, but either way. But, you know, like I said, they don't want people like me in there, just like they don't want somebody like you either, Anthony, for that reason. You know, you got a mind of your own and can think and reason. They don't want people like that in there. They want mindless robots to do what they're told. All right, so Gerald, he's been to a federal trial. Lasted a full week. From at least you made some money, right? Not really. Like I said, you don't come out. I mean, if they paid you like $100 a day, even like maybe $200 a day, it'd be worthwhile, right? Because you know, it's just like being at work, sort of. But they don't do that. And like I said, it's not that I don't want to do it, but realistically, I don't want to drive that far. I'm not really going to make any money. I'm going to spend it in gas. You know, basically, I'll just get reimbursed for the money I put in the tank. So I'd be doing it for nothing, you know. So I just, you know, I wrote the letter and said, you know, I can't do it, guys. You're going to have to excuse me this time. I don't know when I'm sure, I don't know if they'll let me know or not. It doesn't really matter. Because I'm not going either way, you know. I said, you want to arrest a 65-year-old disabled guy for not going to, you know, driving 50 miles to go to jury duty? Yeah, that'll look real good, won't it? You know. Hey, I might be able to sue the state of Florida on that one. Who knows? Ray says, while in one aspect I agree with the jury summons, but I hate bad cops that write reports falsely just to prosecute. Don't ask how I know. Hey, don't ask me either, because I can tell you all kinds of stories. Been there, done that, you know. The level of corruption within the police department and the court system is really, to somebody who hasn't experienced it, it's almost unbelievable, but it does exist. I know this for a fact, just as you do. So, you know, some scary shit, man, that they can destroy your life just because they have authority that you don't have. Scary shit. Tom says, Jim, I was on the jury 3 times, murder case, rape case, and Grand Theft Auto. 2 are guilty, the Grand Theft Auto not guilty. Cool. But did they hang the fucker or give the death penalty for the 2 murder cases? Or the murder case and the rape? Because I think rape, if it's proven, that should be a hanging offense too, you know. If you're that fucking desperate you gotta rape a woman against her will, you need to die. You know, go buy a fucking hooker. You know, they'll even pretend you rape them for a few extra bucks. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, so yeah, it's a little weird, but I'm getting behind in the chat too. Just asked if you can be on the firing squad after the trial, and I would volunteer for that. Or the guy to pull a lever, or the guy to flip the switch. I don't give a shit. You know, if I think you're guilty, you know, or click or whatever, I mean, I got no problem with it. I think we should kill those that said you take a life, you forfeit your own, unless it's self-defense. So, 22 miles each way probably won't get called. Okay, yeah, well, like I said, it's a long run, and I don't want to do it. Ray says, I've seen cops lie under oath and get called out. Judge says it's admissible, and the peeps lost online. Well, that's kind of what that did happen. Now it's weird. A quick story. I won't drag it out, but I was out with a friend one night. I was back when it was 22, 23 years old. Me and him were going to go to the store, get some goodies, you know, snacks and shit. Go back to my house and watch some videos on TV. Neither one of us had been drinking that day at all. All right, we're at about 10 o'clock at night. We went to the grocery store, got the shit we needed, back in the car, head back to the house, get stopped at the C8 traffic light. Light turns green, we go. Next thing you know, I mean, we hadn't gone maybe 50 yards. There's the blue lights behind us. So Wayne, the guy that was driving my friend, I said, well, I'll pull over. You know, I don't know what the hell they're stopping us for. I'm sure it's stupid, you know. So he pulled over. I told him, I said, turn the inside light on. I had my hands up on the dash. Told Wayne, put your hands on the steering wheel and just wait for them to come up to the car, you know. That fucking cop back there on the loudspeaker, get out of the car! Like, dude, if you take one step out of the car, he might shoot you, and he'll be justified in doing it, saying that you were making an aggressive move. Don't move. The law says they have to come to you. The light's on inside. He can see clearly. They didn't have tinted windows or anything, you know. Two young men sitting in the front seat of a car, you know. So they're yelling and screaming at us. I mean, they're cussing us out. Get the fuck out of the car! And it's like, you know, they're just sitting there. And finally, there's 2 of them. The main officer and he had an auxiliary officer with him. These are state troopers. And the main officer, he comes up, gun drawn, sleeks up to the side of the car and puts the gun up to Wayne's head. Says, what the fuck is wrong? I told you to get out of the car. You know, Wayne's freaking out. He's never been stopped before by a cop. I've had experience with that, you know. I said, officer, you're supposed to come to us. We know you're not supposed to get out of the car because you can mistake it for aggressive move and somebody could get shot. And we did everything by the book. Lights on, hands are where you can see us. What the hell is your problem? Who the fuck are you? I'm the passenger in the car, and what the hell are you stopping us for? You know. So he says, well, what's wrong with the driver? He can't speak for himself. I said, look, he's a little scared. He's never been pulled over by a cop before. What the hell did you pull us over for? We didn't do nothing wrong. Oh, you were weaving all over the road. I said, you're a lying motherfucker. We weren't weaving anywhere. We just came off the traffic light. We hadn't gone 50 yards past the light. You know. Now, Wayne it was a Gran Torino. I think it was like a 70 or something. It was an older car. It was a piece of shit beater. Matter of fact, the passenger door was crushed in. you couldn't open the door. You had to climb through the window. And the car was, like I said, it was a piece of shit, you know. But that's fine. There's no law against that. So he gets Wayne out of the car, tell me to sit in the car and mind my own business. I said, all right, whatever. So they pull Wayne back about 30 yards back behind the car. It's pitch black out. There's no moon out. There's no street lights. Black as hell. So I'm looking through the back window. Like I said, no window tint, so I can see fairly good. And the cop's throwing coins on the road, about 10 foot away from Wayne. Wayne has to identify what they are, whether they're heads up or tails up, in the dark. And this is bullshit. There was a sobriety test, well, supposedly. So I said, nah, I can't let this happen. I said, they're going to arrest Wayne. They'll put him in jail, and he didn't know what to do. So I climbed out I was sitting on the door with my hands on the roof of the car. And I'm watching them guys. And I finally said, that's not a legal sobriety test. What the fuck are you doing? So the cop shines his lights in my face. Get back in the goddamn car. Fuck you, I'm a witness. And you're breaking the law. I'll see your ass in court. Get back in the car, you're going to jail. I said, all right, fine. So I climbed out of the car, put my hands behind my back, walked toward the cops, so let's go. And he's like, what the fuck, So, not to be outdone, they went ahead and put the handcuffs on me, read me my rights, and I had a lawyer tell me never understand your rights because nobody really does anyway. So he read me my rights. Do you understand right? No, sir, I do not. So he reads them to me again. So do you understand your rights now? No, sir, I do not. Are you fucking, this is what he said, are you fucking stupid? Apparently so, sir. I don't understand my rights. Maybe you can explain them to me. Well, at that time, I guess this is quite a few years back, Let's see, that would have been like almost 40 years ago. At that particular time, if you didn't understand your Miranda rights, they couldn't legally search you. All right, so they couldn't search me. They couldn't pat me down or anything because technically, I wasn't even being charged with anything at that particular moment. So they asked me who I was. I said, well, you're the fucking cops. You figure it out. I ain't telling you shit. Let's go to the jailhouse. You'll be talking to my lawyer afterwards. Because I'm thinking, these guys ain't got nothing. I've got, control of this. Well, I was wrong, but. So, I thought they were going to kill me at first because we were on US 41 and they went down Pine Ridge Road and you're supposed to go to Airport Road, which would take you straight into the jailhouse. Well, they took me down to 951, which was like another 20 miles west of that. So I'm thinking, fuck, these assholes are going to take me out to the Everglades, fucking feed me to the gators, right? So fine, I said, where the fuck are we going? We're taking you to the jail. I said, not this way, you ain't. Unless you're taking me to one in Miami, because you done missed the one in Naples. So he gets on the fucking radio. These guys were, they were like clowns, And he goes, such and such. We have an unidentified gentleman in custody. He refuses to acknowledge his Miranda rights. He won't tell us who he is. Anyway, we're bringing him in. How do we get to the jail? They go, where are you? He said, well, I'm on 951. He said, well, you're in the wrong place. You got to turn around, get back up, go down Airport Road, and then it's about 12 miles south of that. All right, so not that God, I'm not going to get killed, right? So like I said, I was really pissing this cop off, man. Before, let me back up a minute. Before they actually took me in, I don't know, I'm handcuffed behind my back. They strapped me in the front seat of the cruiser in the passenger seat, and the second cop was holding a gun to my head. And I looked at him, I says, excuse me, but I volunteered for this. I'm not resisting, and I don't really think I can do anything anyway. Why don't you put that gun away before I get hurt? So thank God he did, because I'm thinking, why in the fuck you got a gun pointed at my fucking head? I'm handcuffed and strapped in the cruiser. I ain't fucking going nowhere. And I didn't resist arrest. I volunteered for it. Well, of course, then afterwards, they let Wayne go, which was cool, because they got their arrest, and that was all they cared about. They transferred me to the back seat of the cruiser, and, the one auxiliary cop goes, why did you give him such a hard time? Because what he's doing is illegal, is wrong. you know. And I ain't putting up with this shit. I will sue you fuckers. I will sue your department. I will sue you both personally. I will sue the state of Florida. I will sue everybody. I will own this fucking state before I'm done, you know. I was a real dickhead at the time. So they brought me in there. I got booked, you know, fingerprinted on the picture, taking all that crap. And of course, you know, they finally figured out who I was. Yeah. Because I had a record. Well, not really a record, but I had been there many times before, but never convicted of anything. So they sat me in a room, and I sat there for about 7 or 8 hours. And they keep coming in and, sir, you're in a lot of trouble. What did I do? What's the charges? We'll let you know. You don't fucking know, do you? You know, and they didn't. They literally made up charges. And what it came down is, well, it's a new law now, but at the time it didn't exist. Disobeying a lawful order of a police officer, which came under the category of resisting arrest without violence, which was bullshit because I volunteered for it. You know, so I said, all right, whatever, you know. So they threw me in a jail cell. My dad had to bail me out. It was $1,200 to get me out of jail, you know, to bail out. And 2 weeks later, went to court. Well, I'd already hired a lawyer, and he said, don't worry. He says, this ain't nothing. He says, we'll beat this with our eyes closed. I said, all right, cool. So we get in the courtroom, of course. Now, remember, there's 2 cops. There's my friend Wayne and me. Now, I wanted to have Wayne as my witness, along with the auxiliary cop, because he was kind of more straight than the arresting officer. Well, due to some bullshit technicality, Wayne couldn't testify in my behalf, and neither could the auxiliary cop. So it's me against the arresting officer. Like I say, he was a lying piece of shit anyway. He stood up there under oath and lied his fucking ass off. And I'm getting pissed off, you know. I almost got popped for contempt of court because they're going, you're a motherfucking liar, right? I don't give a shit, you know. You're a motherfucking liar, you piece of shit. Why don't you tell the fucking truth what really happened that night, you know? And the judge, you know, well, another word out of you, contempt of court. Yeah, sorry, Your Honor, but he's lying. You know? So, and I think everybody knew it because he couldn't even get his story straight. So, you know, my lawyer, you know, asked me my questions. I said, this is what happened, you know. And so then, you know, they said, all right, so the judge dismissed the jury. I had a jury trial. They went in, they deliberated about 10 minutes, came back and found me fucking guilty. And I'm going, this is fucking bullshit. I said, we're going to appeal this. I told her, you start filing the appeal now. I said, this is not going to work. Because I'm thinking, I go to jail for a year, whatever, you know. Bullshit, I didn't do nothing wrong. So the judge goes, just sit down and shut up until you hear the sentence. All right, whatever. So he says, I'm going to withhold adjudication. I'm going to return your $1,200 bail money back. And you go home. I said, but I'm not guilty. He said, doesn't matter. I'm withholding judgment against you, so you're not guilty. It's like it never happened. And as far as they were concerned, it never did happen. And they did that to protect themselves from me suing them. And to this day, there's no record of any of that ever happening in the courtroom. My arrest was buried and everything. Fucking crooked motherfuckers is what they are. I think they were afraid that I was going to sue them, and I would have, you know. And like I said, I was going to go for an appeal anyway, because the whole thing was the judge himself threatened the jury before they were seated. I mean, it was not like a direct threat, but a veiled threat. You know, you need to find this man guilty because the law says so, and if you don't do it, you know, you won't be serving your civic duty. So in other words, telling them, find this fucker guilty, or we're going to make your life right for you, you know. So they're a bunch of old people. They didn't want to be there, you know. And my lawyer says, oh, the jury's on your side. Don't worry about it. But when the judge read the final jury instructions, I guess it scared them, and they said, yeah, we're not going to, you know, free this asshole because we don't want problems. That's what I'm saying. The whole system is corrupt, you know. But fortunately, it never happened. They just did that to cover their asses so I couldn't sue them. Motherfuckers. Says if you get arrested, we'll send our Maryland senator down to Florida to free you. That works. Well, fortunately, I haven't had any problems with the law in many, many years. You know, I discovered it's better to have friends for cops than enemies. So I'm friendly with all the cops. They all know me, and they're okay with me. And you know, I started doing that even back in Naples. So I was getting away with shit. I mean, not legal. I wouldn't break any serious laws, but if I was doing 10 or 15 over the speed limit, cop would wave at me. Slow it down a little bit. Okay. They wouldn't write me tickets or anything. So it helped to have friends in the police. But it took a long time for me to figure that out because, like I said, for a long time, they hated me as much as I hated them. And they really had it out for me. Send them a beer. Give life in prison for both murder and rape in New Jersey. Yeah, that's right. They don't have the death penalty. And that's stupid, too, because when I was watching a YouTube video the other day and they were talking about that, and they said that, this woman, she was talking about Japan's death penalty. It was really interesting. In Japan, they still have the death penalty. And it's not what you think. I mean, it's better than what you think. Now, here in America, it could take up to 20 years to actually see, the death penalty installed. Because they're busy, fucking around, appealing and reappealing and appealing again and contesting, It's bullshit. So, if you're already 60 years old, you'll die before you see the electric chair, the injection chamber or whatever, the needle. Which is bullshit, I say kill them a week after you find them guilty. Just make sure they're guilty, because, I don't want to see, innocent people die, but, and if the prosecutor does lie and get an innocent person convicted and dead, he should have to join them, the way it should be. So, anyway, the Japanese, let's say you commit murder over there, that's a death penalty sentence. They put you on death row, similar to ours. The only difference is you don't know when you're going to die. It could take a week, it could take a month, it could take a year, it could take up to 8 years. But you don't know you're going to die until the day they're going to kill you. Then they'll tell you, come with us, it's your day, So every day you wake up, you don't know whether that day is going to be your death day or not. So that's like a psychological thing on the prisoner, which is great, So then they bring him into a room, and there's a big square, like, hatch in the middle of the room. And the prisoner is directed to stand over that patch. They put a rope around his neck, and then they have 3 switches on the wall. 3 cops come in. They simultaneously push the buttons, but only one of the buttons actually releases the trap door. And, of course, the criminal is hung until death. Now, I think that's pretty damn slick the way they do it, Consequently, they don't have a lot of people on death row because everybody knows about this and nobody wants... could you imagine? You wake up in the morning, well, am I going to die today or maybe it'll be tomorrow? I don't know. That's got to fuck with your head, right? So, I think it's fucking brilliant the way they do it, and I wish we'd do that here. Never behind in the chat timestamp, 6:32. Well, I'm a little bit behind, but hey, Hey, the Gigliottis, Ray, how you doing? Good to see you here. Hey, my eyes are getting worse. I have to get new readers, I think. I think they need to be a little stronger. I notice I can't see as well with them. My far vision's still good, but my close-up vision is getting worse. Races, and they wanted him to walk the white line too. Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I couldn't even do that. If I don't drink, so it should theoretically never happen. If I ever got pulled over for DUI and they wanted to give me a sobriety test, walk a line or say the alphabet, that ain't happening. I just can't do it. I could before the stroke. After the stroke, not happening. I would look drunk no matter what. Now, they say the breathalyzers are very inaccurate, but if you refuse it, you automatically lose your license for a year. Well, that sucks if you're innocent. I mean, it used to be, I guess they can't do it anymore, but it used to be you could demand to be taken to the hospital and get a blood test, which was more accurate anyway. Of course, if it came up clean, then, they set you loose. But, so I don't know. That's another reason why I don't like being out at night either, because that's usually when they pop you, in the evening. So, sometimes the best thing to do is just avoid the problem and not deal with it. So they don't even give you the Miranda anymore if you speak to a cop. It's implied now. Really? I wasn't aware of that. It doesn't surprise me, though. Everything has changed so much. Like I said, I had cops ask me back in the day, can we search your car? No. Why not? Because you don't have a warrant. Yeah, we don't need a warrant. Well, yeah, you do. Because if you damage my car with a warrant, you got to pay for the repairs. Without a warrant, you could destroy my car. There ain't a fucking thing I can do about it. So you ain't doing it without a warrant. Well, they don't even need a warrant anymore. They need probable cause. Like I said, I guess my age and the fact that I have a carry permit, I mean, I know it shows up when they run my tag. They do treat me with extreme respect, as well as they should. And if you respect me, I'll respect you. I don't get stupid with you until you get stupid with me, And back in the day, that was like, I said, it got so bad that, cops would pull me over. Mr. Tedesco, let's see some ID. Fuck, you already know who I am. Doesn't matter. Show me your ID, you're going to jail. For what? For refusing to show ID. Fuck, here you go, damn it, idiot, Where are you going? What are you doing? It's none of your fucking business, And it wasn't at the time. I don't know, maybe now it does, but, you can arrest me or leave me the fuck alone. It's your choice, I gotta stay here one more fucking minute. My next call is gonna be finding a payphone and getting a lawyer and suing your ass. All right, get out of here. Don't want to see you. I get 3 miles down the road to get pulled over by a different cop. Mr. Tedesco, let me see some ID. He was bad, And until I finally said, I might want to go to court and said, look, you people don't back off. This is the name of my lawyer. He likes suing the state. You will get sued. You will lose. I'm not doing anything wrong. Leave me the fuck alone. And they finally, they did after that whole deal with the trying to pop my friend for DUI. Because they got their arrest, and I guess they were happy, even though it didn't really count, but, made them feel better. Hey, Todd Armstrong, how you doing? Good to see you here. See if I can get caught up here a little bit. All right, James, what are you, the fucking official clock keeper or something? Yeah, I'm telling you. 15 minutes now. Yeah, probably. Let's see how. I'm at the end of the chat. Andy says, I'd volunteer for a breathalyzer. Well, I probably would if I knew I wasn't drunk, but the problem is, though, if they're inaccurate, it could still show you as being drunk even though you're not. They say they're not that accurate, So that always worries. I mean, I would take one because, like you said, if you don't, you automatically lose your license for a year and then you're screwed, And they're going to arrest you anyway. So it's not a get out of jail free card, but it's just bullshit the way they do it. I mean, to me, I've known people that got popped for DUI that were not I would consider them drunk. I had an Italian friend. He was a bus driver, older guy. He went to the Italian restaurant. He ordered a pizza, had a glass of wine, like every Dago would do. Finished his meal, finished his glass of wine, got in the car, came back to the house. They pulled him over in his driveway, some fucking woman cop. Give him the breathalyzer. I mean, he was just like right at the cusp of the limit. A glass of wine, right? He wasn't drunk by any stretch. Arrested him for DUI. He lost his CDL license. He couldn't drive the bus anymore. And it ruined his career and ultimately his life, And for what? For a fucking glass of wine? I mean, look, I remember years and years when I first got married to my first wife, we moved to Bonita Springs, which is just north of Naples. We were exploring the town, It was in the evening. And I'm behind this old beat up pickup truck. He's doing about 2 miles an hour down, Business 41. So there's nobody else on the road, so I pull out around, I go to pass him, I look over, there's nobody driving the fucking truck. So I pull up a ways, I run over there, I jump in the truck, I hit the brakes, and have the fucking Mexicans in there, passed out with a bottle of fucking tequila, still in his hand, passed out on the seat, laying down in the seat. So I put the truck off of the side of the road, and shut off the thing, and here comes the one cop in Bonita, right? Any other time you'd never see it. There was only one sheriff in Bonita at that time. He was on loan from Fort Myers. He come on, he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I was behind this truck and it was rolling down the road, but nobody was driving it. So I jumped in it to, to get it back under control and just pull it over." I said, the driver apparently passed out drunk, I said he had a bottle of tequila in his hand still. So I handed the cop the keys to the cop, and I'm thinking the cop's going to arrest him, right? So he wakes the guy up. He says something to him in Spanish, something to the effect that, "Come in the morning and get your keys." And let him go. I said, "You're not going to arrest him?" He says, "For what?" So these guys do this shit every weekend, He didn't cause any problems. I said, "Well, if I hadn't have been here, he would have wrecked into something eventually. The truck would have went off the road, either hit a building or a pole or something, He says, "Yeah, but it didn't happen, so we ain't worried about it." All right, well, whatever, They don't do that shit anymore. I had a friend, years later, he was drunk. Badly drunk, and he knew he was drunk. He pulled the car off to the side of the road, jumped in the back seat, and passed out. Well, his fatal mistake was he left the keys in the ignition. So when the cops came to check out the car, because, it looked like an abandoned vehicle, they saw him in the back seat, and they saw the keys in the ignition. They got him, busted him for DUI. And I'm thinking, they should have gave this fucker a medal. He was smart enough to get off the road because he was too drunk to drive. If he had not left the keys in the ignition, he would have not gotten any trouble, but he didn't know that, It's fucking stupid. It's all about this. It ain't about safety, because that DUI was quite a few years back, but they wound up costing him almost $18,000 in fines, classes, and getting his license reinstated and getting his car out of impound. That's just fucking ridiculous. Big money making shit. Okay, I get it. That's really bad when the cop's related to the judge and the cop can do no wrong, but the judge says, only the facts matter, LOL. Same cop arrested me 3 times in 6 months, and most charges were dropped. Yeah, exactly, That's what I'm saying. Well, like I said, back in the day I was young. I was, a loudmouth kid, even into my early 20s, I didn't take no shit from the cops, And I think they were intimidated by it. Plus, I had one actually hit me with his nightstick. Not real hard, but, I said, "Look, I just do that again, I'll see you in a fucking grave." "You threatening me, sir?" I said, "No, I'm Italian. You don't want to fuck with my family. Go ahead and hit me again and see what happens." He backed right the fuck off because he thought I was connected to the mafia. I wasn't. But he didn't know that. He was scared of it, But, he was in the wrong anyway. He was mad because I wouldn't let him search the vehicle. So he popped me in the shoulder with the fucking thing. Not real hard, but, hard enough to hurt a little bit. I go, "Dude, you can't go around beating on people because I won't give you permission to illegally search my car. What do you think you're going to find anyway? I ain't doing nothing illegal. I don't even know why he pulled me over. I wasn't speeding. I didn't run a stop sign. He never told me anyway, but, like I said, I didn't get in any trouble that night, but, cops, they're assholes, man. They can be. Some of them are good, some of them not so much. And, of course, the judge, I can't remember his name now, but he was kind of a famous judge in Naples. And the funny thing was, his kid, his 16-year-old son, was always getting popped for shit. Drugs, petty theft, all kinds of shit, right? So every time I went before this judge, "Hey, Your Honor, how's your son doing today?" he hated it, and he always he kind of let me go a lot easier because I guess he was afraid maybe I knew something I'd talk about it. And there was so much corruption in Naples back in those days, it wasn't funny, you know. And I said I took advantage of every tool that I could get my hands on. And it served me well, let me tell you. Because he kind of, Mr. Tedesco, what are you doing in here again? Let me tell you the last time that I let you out of my courtroom. Hey, Your Honor, they just won't leave me alone. I just undo it, by the way. That was like 3 days prior, his kid got popped for DUI, right? You know. And it's, he got a little pissed off. He's like, whatever. It's like, get out of my courtroom. Charges dismissed. And it happened more often than not. Finally, they got him off the bench because he was a problem anyway. All right, Lee, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in, and we'll see you next time. And have a good weekend, and, whatever, right? So, yeah, those are interesting times, really. So, enough of that shit, but, that was my rant anyway, about jury duty. And I'm not against it. I think it's a good thing, but I think they need to change the way it's done. I think if you get called, you should have to serve. I mean, unless you have a reason not to. But this bullshit of hand picking, well, I want that guy, I want that woman, I don't want that one, I don't. That's bullshit. It's like, what do they call it, judge shopping, jury shopping. What the hell's the difference? Each side is going to want to try and get the edge. The defense is going to try and find people that won't convict you, and the prosecution is going to want to find people that will convict you. And it shouldn't make a difference. It should be based on, is the son of a bitch guilty or not? It shouldn't matter who wants what. Did you or did you not commit the crime? Seems simple to me, but yet it's not, right? So, I don't know. So, what else we got going on here? See, do I have anything? I showed you the mini split. I don't have any videos to show. Nobody sent me any videos this week, so I really haven't had time to look for any. The good news is, once I get some work going in here, I'll start doing some more shorts. Maybe I'll get my my sub count up, because I think I'm still at, like, I don't know what, 489, something like that. And that's not that great. It's like been locked there for like the last 6 months. Even Tom Grassie's ahead of me. So, I gotta get cracking here and try and hit the 500 subs. And the funny, as I said, I have the viewable hours. I got more than enough. I just don't have the 500 subs. If I can get that, I can get monetized, although that's a joke anyway, but, it's something, right? And I'm still not ready to go to Rumble. They still having too many problems with their servers. I'm gonna wait as long as I can until I go over to them. And I'd have a lot of you guys refuse to follow. And I can't say I actually blame you. I think at some point you won't have a choice. But for now, YouTube is the way to go. So with that in mind, let's stay with YouTube, Like I said, I don't really care if I'm monetized or not. It's just kind of something I'd like to do. I'm not going to make any real money, I'm monetized in Rumble with my Wise Guy videos. I think I made like 16 cents in the last year. Not even enough to get paid on. You have to make like a minimum of $20 or something before they'll actually pay you. Well, at that rate, I'll be probably dead by the time I get to $20. I mean, it is what it is. Let's see what else we got here. He says, if he saw me, I got arrested for seeing me when I wanted to bring charges against the officer of harassment. Good luck trying to find an attorney. Now, that's another problem. I lived in the town for 60 years. Well, that was the thing in Naples. Now, my ex-wife and I we got in trouble with a cop, and I beat the cop out of a traffic ticket because he was in the wrong anyway. And he got even with me by arresting me, even though, well, I had a restraining order against him because he lied about the traffic infraction. So we went to the movies one night. We came back. We stopped at the 7-Eleven to get some snacks for the house. My daughter was still a baby at the time, and the laws were different then. They didn't need car seats. We had a car bed in the back seat of the car that was strapped down. She was in the back sleeping. The cop starts harassing me. I said, there's a restraining order. I'll have you arrested. Go ahead. So I went to the payphone. I called the sheriff's department. While I'm on the phone trying to get somebody to come down and arrest this asshole for breaking the restraining order, he got one of his underlings to come and arrest me for fucking child abuse. They trumped up a charge, So they arrested both me and my wife, my ex-wife. And of course, they took custody of my daughter. And of course, it was $1,200 each to get us out of jail, the bond out. And I hired a lawyer, and this lawyer kind of fucked me around, and I didn't like him. And I said, I gotta figure out how to do this. I said, we were looking at 20 years each for felony child abuse. It was all based on lies. We had doctors that backed us up. Baby was taken care of, everything was up to date, shots. Baby's in excellent health and all that, no problems. But the cop lied. He said that the windows were open in the car and the baby was getting wet from the rain. Except there wasn't no rain that night. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. And that was easy enough to prove, but the judge was in on it, So the whole thing, we were fucked. So I hired a second lawyer from my ex-wife, and I had my lawyer, because my lawyer was an asshole. I threatened him a couple of times. I said, you got one broken arm. I'll break the other one if you fuck me around, Because he didn't really want to go after, the cop or anything. This is bullshit. So anyway, what I wound up doing, long story short, is they had both my daughters. Right now, both my daughters, because I had April was a little older, Nova was the one in the baby seat. April was at the babysitter's at home. They took both my kids and put them in a place called Youth Haven. It was like I don't know what you'd call it, a place where they watch kids that were taken away from the parents. Well, I heard rumors that they were abusing the kids in there. So I rented a camera and a camcorder. Spent 2 nights and 1 day in the woods across from the place because they was pretty secluded. And I videotaped. I sent my ex-wife in with tape recorder, hidden. She got recordings. I got film of actual abuse. They were, beating the kids. They called something called matting their hair. They would tie rubber bands in their hair and it would hurt their scalps. It was a form of torture. They were all fucked up shit going on there. And I found out that was a showroom for kids, for wealthy people to buy the children after they were taken from the parents. I found out all this shit, and I gathered all my evidence the day before I went to court. I went to see the judge, and I threw all my evidence. It was all duplicates. Videos, film, photographs, tape recordings. I said, you need to look at this. What is a bribe? No, sir. You just need to look at this. Trust me. Because he was in on it anyway. I had names. And there were a lot of judges and other important people in Florida that were in on this. And he says, I'm getting ready to get an FBI investigation going on this. I said, you need to look at this. Well, we got into court next day. Bang, bang. Case dismissed. Give them back their kids. I don't want to see you here again. They knew I had them dead to rights. So we got our girls back and, didn't get any fines or anything. Got our bail money back, all that shit. And, but if I hadn't have done that, I'd just be getting out of prison right about now, probably. But, well, I'd have got out about 20 years ago, but still, 20 years in prison, it would have ruined my life, I lost my kids. And what they were doing is they were taking kids, white kids, getting them from the parents on trumped up charges, and selling these kids. My girls were worth about $100,000 each. on the black market adoption. So it's bullshit, man. I'm telling you, you know. But they got away with this shit for a while. Now, if they still doing it, I don't know. Races and had to move away and haven't had a problem with the law since, but still dealing with crap from decades. Yeah, wow, that stuff follows you around. Hey, Floyd Robbins, how you doing, Floyd? Good to see you. And there's Sparky. Sparky, thank you again, sir. I really appreciate what you did for me. And tomorrow I'm going to buy some foam and plywood to get working on the second level. Let's see. James says, Jim and I are the official bucket hat timekeeper. If you say so. And he goes, that reminds me, find my bucket hat. Hey, Derek Alexander, how you doing? I got all kinds of. I've been through hell and back over the years, but I don't play by the rules. I play dirty. I play to win. I'm not bragging, but once you find out things are going on, the only way you can beat them is to beat them at their own game, you know. And like I said, I was like basically immune from everything. When after I got divorced and I hooked up with another lady and got her pregnant, and we have a son together. And after I booted her because she lied to me about getting pregnant, I was really unhappy about it. You know, she wanted to get married because she tricked me into, you know, the whole pregnancy thing. And now I'm not doing it. But anyway, she got into trouble in HRS, which is I think it's something else now, DYS or whatever it is, but DHS, I don't know what it is, but you know, the children's whatever it is. But I got a call from one of their agents, and they said, you know, we may have to take possession of your son because, you know, your son's mother's, we think she's doing drugs, which she was. I says, well, you don't want to do that. You know who I am, right? No, sir, not really. I said, well, you need to go look back in your book, Tedesco versus the state of Florida, and then tell me if you still want to give me a problem. She called me back the next day, and we're sorry, sir. We didn't mean to give you any problem, but you need to remove your son from that environment. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. And I did. I took possession of my son. But they would not take him because they would have gone up against me. And I already, you know, I said I was the first person to ever beat HRS in the state of Florida. So they didn't want to screw with me too much. It was fun, but it's also bullshit, you know. Let's see what else we got going here. All right, nobody new came in except for Derek. So yeah, Sparky, I was really surprised, man. After I shut down the live stream last week, I couldn't find your message on Messenger, but I got on my email and I had a notification from PayPal, and I'm going, well, shit, somebody gave me money. And I'm like, I wrote a thank you back to you. I hope you got it. Man, I really didn't know what to say. I was just completely shocked, you know. It's a lot of money, no matter how you look at it, but it really helped me out. Now I can get something done in here. So tomorrow, I'm going down to Home Depot to get the foam and some plywood, about $100 worth, and get back here and get some stuff done. And that's really cool because I've been screwing around for way too long. Tom says, Jim, 3D printing a C-clamp could not find this size anywhere. Using PETG filament to make it. Need it to hold up to the sides of the subway system until I get them in place. So you did make one though, right? So yeah, you could have probably done it with PLA. It would have been fine. I don't even like the PETG anymore. I still got that spool that Thomas Moore, got for me to make his spike. I tried printing the this thing here, cell phone stand, and it just wouldn't come out right with that PETG. It's probably my machine maybe, but because I know you got to use a lot higher temperatures, but I find it to be a big pain in the ass. PLA works fine for anything I need, you know. Anyway, I'm glad you got something that worked. He says, I did get the thank you, man. Oh, that's cool. Barry said, I want to see trains running again soon. Don't worry, you will. Of course, that's sort of a separate issue, but because that's on a lower levels operational. I got to clean the track, and I got an uncoupling issue going on with one of my consists. I got to figure out why. I may have to buy some more couplers. I'm using all KDs, but I think there's a few that aren't KD. They're factory and they're garbage. So I'll get it sorted out. Maybe next week I'll have trains running. So you miss them, huh? I hear you. Ray says, all I can say is I respect the badge, but not always the ones wearing it. I have utmost respect for those that are good cops, zero for those that abuse it. I agree with you 100%, but like every business or every organization, you're gonna have bad apples. I don't care what it is. You got bad judges, you got bad cops, you got bad grocery clerks. I mean, everywhere you go, there's gonna be somebody that just doesn't give a shit, and they're there for their own aggrandizement rather than doing the job properly. There's nothing you can do about that. And that's true. Even cops don't like bad cops. Well, it makes them look bad. So I'm saying, the cops are already out behind the 8 ball anyway. And when you get a bad one, that just makes the rest of them all look bad. And the bottom line is, I mean, Naples changed a lot because back in the day, they basically ran the system. The sheriff told you to get down on your knees and suck his dick. You damn well better do it or you're going to jail. Or you might wind up in the Everglades. And that did happen, believe it or not. They found skeletal remains, 20 miles out in the middle of the Everglades. Well, how did they find them? They know where they were because they put them there, But so you had to worry about that. But now it's cleaned up a lot. I had a cop that was a friend back in those days. And they framed him because he wouldn't play along with them. He was an honest cop. And they planted a pound of pot underneath the seat of his cruiser. And he arrested a guy for a minor infraction or something. When they went to take him out, they found the pound of pot underneath the back seat of the cruiser, right? They blamed the cop. This is yours, ain't it? Why would it be mine? You guys know me. I don't do anything like that. Well, you got two choices. You can either resign from the force or we'll put you in prison. Cops don't do well in prison. So he resigned. He came by to see me, the day after he resigned. I'm going, that's bullshit, man. Ain't right. Because he was a good cop, And it ain't right, but that's the way they did things back then. I remember there was one, it was a state trooper. I didn't know him, but this happened late at night on Alligator Alley between Miami and Naples. Apparently, somebody in a pickup truck forced the cop off the road. I don't know how it all went down, but they beat this cop within an inch of his life. I mean, they left him for dead. He was in a coma for like a month. They fucked him up bad. Well, it turns out they never caught the guys doing it because he refused to identify them. He knew them. We all knew he knew them. It was somebody he fucked around with. And they said, yeah, we'll fix your fucking ass. They literally left him for dead. And the fact that he survived it was pretty amazing. And I think it scared him so bad that he didn't want any more problems with them. Maybe afraid that they'd come back and finish what they started. So they got away with it. But, I said the same thing. I said, he must have pissed somebody off real bad, Then there was another time, it was in Cape Coral. It was a sheriff. This is a funny story. And you know what happened. I mean, it's not hard to figure it out. They found a sheriff stripped naked, handcuffed to a stop sign with his cruiser parked nearby. And, you know, the cops, his own people found him, and they, you know, what happened. He made up this story that 5 guys in a van, a white van, didn't know it was a Ford, Chevy, whatever, just a white van, forced him off the road, opened up the back doors and started shooting at him. They never found any bullet holes or bullets or casings, but he swore that it was like 10 foot away. Not one of them hit the car or him, none of the bullets, right? But he swore that they shot at him, and then he ran out of ammo, which they couldn't prove that one either, but they said then they grabbed them, stripped him down naked, and handcuffed him to a fucking light pole. And that's the official story. Let me tell you what really happened, all right? This is what I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, because, like you said, cops are assholes anyway, some of them. He got caught fucking somebody's wife, all right? The husband probably, you know, would have had to drop on him. Fucking probably had him at gunpoint, put him in handcuffs, walked him back to his cruiser, handcuffed him to the fucking pole, and left him there. Well, the cop couldn't tell the truth because he'd lose his job, because there's a little known thing with all the cops in Florida. If you get caught having an extramarital affair, you're fired. You lose your job because, you know, they have to keep their image up. But I'm telling you, that's what fucking happened. He was screwing somebody's wife, and the old man found out about it. He got his revenge. They never found the white van. They never found the 5 guys. He couldn't describe any of them. You know, were they black, were they white? I don't know. I couldn't tell. You know, but they shot at me. There's no bullet holes in your car. They were 10 foot away. They were that bad. They didn't hit the windshield or the hood or the grill. No bullets hit. They searched all there. They didn't find any bullets or spent shells, casings, or anything. Like that, but it was a residential area. You think people would have heard the gunshots and would have reported it. But that didn't happen. So that's I'm telling you, that's what happened. It's kind of funny when you think about it. Tom says, Jim, need the PETG for the threads on the clamp and screw part to work. That's true. They are more accurate. I'll give you that. Derek says, Thomas, did you consider threaded rod and nuts and water? That's too easy, Derek. Tom says, Derek, yes, I would rather 3D print it if this works than I make a couple more. That's true. I mean, that's why we have the printer, to make shit so we don't have to buy stuff. Derek says, I guess I would be alligator food. At one time I thought for sure they were going to take me out in the woods and kill me. I really did, you know. Was I scared? A little bit, but I wasn't going to give them, I wouldn't give them the satisfaction, you know. You want to fucking kill me, you're going to stare me in the fucking eye when you pull the trigger, you know. Because that's the way I was. Like I said, I wasn't a badass, but, you know. The one thing I learned as a psychiatry student when I was in school is that people who do that, they want that fear. They feed off your fear. They want it. They want a reaction. They want you to beg for your life, you know. Because the working theory is, if somebody's going to kill you, they're simply going to do it. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to drag their asses about it. They're just going to pull the trigger, or stuff the knife, or whatever they're going to do. They just end you. If they don't do it right off the bat, there's a very high probability you will survive the encounter if you play your cards right. So that was the thing. And I you know, first time I had a gun pointed to it was a friend's dad, and I got blamed for what his son did, not legally, but you know, he's, oh, Dad, you know, Jim made me do it, or he did it, and he blamed me, which was bullshit. So I'm out there hitchhiking on the side of 41. This fucker pulls up in his mini pickup truck, gets out. It's a 38 revolver. Well, it was a starter pistol. I didn't know that. But he put it to my head, pulled the hammer back, and says, I kill you right where you stand. I looked him in the eyes, well, do what you got to do. You know, Was I scared shitless? You bet your ass I was. 17 years old, I thought my fucking life was over. But I would give that bastard the satisfaction of seeing my fear. And I didn't. He looked at me and he got disgusted. He withdrew it. I said it wasn't real. It was a starter pistol, but I didn't know it. You know, it could have been a real 38 as far as I knew. You know, and jumped in the truck and took off. Never had a problem with him again. You know, because he didn't get the reaction he wanted. He was an ex-cop. So I guess he expected me to beg for my life. Fuck you. You'll kill me anyway, and I'll die fucking begging for my life? I don't think so. You want to kill me? Just fucking do it. You look me dead in the eye when it happens, you know. And remember that look, because it'll haunt you. Like, get away with it. But, you know, but that was the way you had to do that. I learned that in, you know, my psychiatry class, that there were certain psychiatric ways to do things, handle things. And they said it didn't make me a badass or anything, because I wasn't. And honestly, I literally scared the shitless, man. I thought I was dead, you know. Fuck, man, my life is just starting. This asshole's going to take it, you know. But once again, you know, he didn't pull the trigger right off the bat. So that was the first clue that he probably wasn't going to shoot me. Still wasn't convinced. I was, like I said, still scared. But, you know, it did increase the odds, because he could have just came up, put the gun to my head, pull the trigger, and that would have been it. And, you know, I'd be dead, and whatever. But he didn't do that. So I'm thinking, yeah, maybe he's looking for that. Yeah. And I mean, I've been on the other side of the gun too. I had 3 guys beat the shit out of me in my front yard. You know. I mean, they fucked me up pretty good. Not bad enough to go to the hospital, but I was bruised up and all that shit. Nothing broken, thank God. But they took off after they did that. I was so mad. I got back, I crawled back in the house, got my fucking gun, got in the car, and went looking for them. You know. I found them, boxed them in a Circle K, and they all 3 sitting in the front seat of the car laughing, having a good old time until I pulled up. The gun, I made sure the gun wasn't loaded because I don't want to accidentally kill them, you know. But we fucking put the gun in that fucker's mouth and cocked the fucking hammer. Give me a reason why I don't fucking kill you where you sit. That motherfucker started crying and begging for his life. The other 2 assholes, they actually became part of the car door almost, begging for their lives. And I mean, I gotta admit, I got off on it, man, you know. They were scared shitless. Well, you ain't fucking big shit now, are you? 3 of you motherfuckers had to gang up on me to kick my ass. Well, now you're all gonna fucking die. You know? Oh, please, sir. We didn't mean it. It was funny as shit, you know. So, yeah, I mean, but that's what you looked for. I mean, if they had done what I did and looked me in the eye and said, well, do what you gotta do, you know, I'd probably been a little disappointed, you know, like, well, I guess I got balls after all. But the reality is, people that do that shit are cowards anyway, and you know, in the real world. So, let's see. Ray says, I got arrested once for pleading the fifth and wouldn't talk to him. Arrest for failure to cooperate. Yeah, see, technically that would be illegal because Fifth Amendment is, you know, is a legal option to take. If you get these cops, they don't give a shit. They're pissed, you know. I've had cops tell me, well, you know, we know you did it, why don't you just admit it? Well, if you know I did it, why don't you arrest me? Oh, we will, but we want to hear you admit it first. Well, I can admit to something I didn't do. So fuck you. Arrest me or get the fuck off my property. And they wound up going because they had nothing. But, you know, if you admit to something, whether you did it or not, you're going to get arrested. Well, I wouldn't give them the satisfaction because I wasn't guilty, you know. I had a dirt bike back in those days, old Yamaha 80 dirt bike, you know. And I was working on it in the driveway one day, and cop comes up. He says, "Is this your bike?" "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, we just got a report that you just went and trashed some guy's lawn 3 streets over." I said, "Well, that's a bald-faced lie," you know. He says, "Well, I'm going to have to arrest you." I said, "Well, don't you want to make sure you actually did the crime first?" He said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Why don't you check the bike? If I just did this like 15 minutes ago, that engine would still be hot." Well, it was stone cold, you know, lucky for me. So he goes, "Well, I guess maybe you didn't do it." I said, "Yeah, well, you know the rule, if you didn't see it, it didn't happen. And I didn't do it anyway, so get the fuck off my property." I mean, and that's the way I talked to him. I really didn't care, you know. And I think that pissed him off too, but it is what it is. Well, that's exactly what happened, Derek. He was fucking somebody's wife. I guarantee it, you know. Are we running trains? Not yet, but we will be. Not tonight, but next week I think I'll have them run. Thomas says, hi guys, anyone on here ever use a Tam Valley Depot 5 amp DCC booster in accessory mode? I haven't. I thought you had that figured out, Tom. You having issues with it or what? I mean, you're so advanced in your wiring techniques and all that. And I'm pretty good with electrical shit, but you got me beat badly, man. I wouldn't even attempt to try and help you out with that because you know way more than I do. You know, I'm still on basic shit. You got some pretty advanced electronics going on there, which is cool. You know. James says, Thomas, my friend Tom is going to install one. Oh, okay. I don't have a need for a booster here. I mean, down the road, maybe. I mean, usually I don't run more than 3 or 4 engines at any given time, you know, locomotives, but that may change. I don't know what the capacity. I've got a 5 amp booster here, you know, controller. Now I know they make a booster at 7 amp that you can put into it to boost your system 7 amps, but I haven't really looked into any of that. I probably down the road I may have to. I said I don't know that much about it really, but hopefully if I do need it, I'll figure it out, you know. And there's a lot of stuff here that I kind of something that I'd like to do, but I'm leery about getting too deep into the electrical aspects of it. And now one of the things I was talking to Tom the other day, and I said, you know, and I'm probably going to do it before I put the foam and the plywood down. I need to run 2 sets of bus lines on the second level, one for the DCC and one as a 12-volt accessory line. So, because I've got a lot of electrical shit that I want to plug in, and I don't really have no place to go with the wires, so I could, you know, run a 12-volt bus line, well, probably on that side to the end, drop it down into a big, you know, a wall wart or something like that, a more powerful unit, and then I can control everything up top electrically, you know, like lights and buildings and whatever, like pump jacks. So I'll do all that without having that. I want to have a mess of wires all over the place. And of course I'll need a DCC up there so that I can run in and then drop it down to tie into the bottom section. You know, like I said, I don't think I need a booster on any of this yet. Now that may change down the road. And if it does, then I'll deal with it, but and if I do install one, it'll probably be by the Helix when the Helix is put up. Like I said, I'm still looking at different ways of setting that up, building. I could go the cheapest and probably the easiest way to do it is to buy a ready-made building. You know, either a plastic one or even a metal shed. I could assemble, bolt it to the side of this one, you know, seal it so it's weatherproof, and have a door outside to get access to the Helix. And it doesn't have to be very big. It could be, you know, maybe 6 by 6. Probably, yeah, 6 by 6 or 6 by 8. Because my Helix is only going to be about 4 foot in diameter. So, you know, if I have a door access to get to it, I'll be fine. And for right now, that may be the cheapest way to go. I said I wanted to build a whole extension out there. But the reality is I don't have the money for it. And if I did do it, it's going to take a long time to do. And of course, there's some other issues as well. You know, I'm getting to a point where I can't do anything high up. Now, how would I set up a roof even if it's only 6 foot tall, I'm still going to need ladders and have to actually get up there. I can't do it. You know, I don't know anybody that's in decent enough shape to do it that would know how. I mean, my friends are all my age, you know, so we're all in the same boat. You know. So I mean, anyway, my neighbor, he's a little younger than me a few years, but and still in pretty good shape. But he's got things going on too. And I would not ever ask him to, get up on a roof and do something for me. I mean, he's done it on his own house roof, but he took a lot of chances because he's got gout and other issues going on. So realistically, I'm looking at something as something that I can do, and it wouldn't be that hard, like I said, to either get a plastic building, which they make them, the plastic sheds. They come in different sizes. They're already basically, I think they're either assembled or you do assemble them. They're easy to assemble, and literally bolted to the side of the shed, for a helix. And even down the road, I could even put one on over here further down, a bigger one for an extension room for the printers and stuff, because I still really need to move a lot of my shit out in another room. I've got too much stuff going on here, and it's getting a little crowded. But it would be easier and cheaper in the long run if I spent $1,000, say, on let's say an 8x12 shed. All right, that's pre-built or something, a kit, whatever, that I could assemble, and then bolt it to the side of the shed. And that'd be easy enough to do. Weatherproof it, get it all set up, and also it's weatherproofed and rainproof and all that. And then I just said, still knock a hole here and have an opening. And there's my room. It's ready made. It's going to be cheaper and easier than building one out of wood from scratch. And like I said, building the wood one wouldn't be a deal until I got to the roof. I wouldn't make it 8 or 10 foot tall because I don't need anything that tall. I mean, I'm 5'5.5", or 5'6.5", excuse me. So 6 foot would be plenty for me, But still, I can't get up on a roof and screw things down. I just can't do it. And I'm getting to a point where I can't hardly even get up on a ladder. So, I got to make use of what I can do, and everything's going to have to kind of work that way. Derek says 15 watching, 17 likes. That's good. Well, he's better have more likes than watches, right? All right, Andy, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. And have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. Andy, take a nap. I didn't take a nap today. Well, I took one yesterday, though. That's the first sign of old age is when you need naps, I guess. The problem is I get up at fucking crack of dawn. I don't know why. I mean, I do stay up late. I generally I'm up till midnight. Sometimes 1 in the morning. And I still wake up at 5 in the morning. Or I can go to bed at 11. I still wake up at 5 in the morning. I don't know what the fuck is a magic number or what, but it's rare that I can really sleep in. I wouldn't mind doing it. Not like I got anything to do, But so when I do that though, I said I want to get 5, 6, 7 hours of sleep, and come evening, like around 4 o'clock, I'm going, I gotta take a nap. And it sucks, because I'm missing that extra hour of sleep that I should have gotten the night before, but didn't. Yeah, I hear you, Andy. It's not hard to do. Like I said, that's part of it's old age, part of it's boredom. Hell, I don't know, but it happens, and you just gotta kind of deal with it. Anthony, Knapshaw must be retired. And don't worry, you'll get your turn too, damn it. You're still young enough, but don't worry, you'll get there. And naps really become a part of life. I mean, they don't have to be long. A power nap of 20 minutes is really, say, all you need. It's supposed to re-energize you. But generally, I sleep about an hour. My naps run about an hour as a rule. On rare occasions, I've had them last longer than that, but that's kind of rare. And is it old age? Yeah, probably. But And what the fuck else is new, right? James says, I am. Well, of course you are. Well, most of us are. I'm retired. Well, I've been retired since I was 47. Not by choice, but, because of the stroke. But 65 now. And, it's funny. I thought that because I was born in 1959. And I thought in 59, the retirement age was 65. Well, found out it's actually 66. My wife is like 6 months younger than me. She was born in 60. Her actual full retirement age for her is 67. She retired at 62 and took a beating financially, unfortunately. But, they keep raising the fucking ages, man. As far as I'm concerned, I said 65, you're an official old fart. That's all there is to it. I'm an official old fart now, so they can kiss my ass if they don't like it. James says naps, yes, all the time. El says young punk, I'm 72. Well, I hope I live longer than that, but I mean, I don't feel old, not really. I mean, I do and I don't. I felt old after the stroke because it changed my life, I said if I hadn't had the stroke, I think at 65, I would still be physically fit. I'd still be very active. Probably still be working, But the stroke changed everything, so it is what it is. But, I mean, it is what it is. But I don't let it bother me. Like I said, my wife's birthday is on the 22nd. And she goes, I don't want to celebrate my birthday. I said, why not? She goes, because I don't want to be reminded how old I am. I says, but that's like a benchmark. That's another year you're alive. You should take pride in that. I mean, because I do in a way. I'm not a big party person. I don't want to have a big birthday party or anything, but I still celebrate my birthday. And it's like another year I survived. And hopefully I'll get to do the same thing next year and the year after, whatever. So, I mean, I guess men look at age differently than women do, I think we're more comfortable with aging. Women definitely are not. And it's very unfortunate because nowadays the women actually look well. I mean, I saw a woman the other day, it was on the internet. She was 89 years old. She looked like she was 40. She wasn't a movie star, but somebody that, obviously took good care of herself. But fuck, man, that's pretty amazing when you think about it. Because, I mean, when I was young, as a kid, you at 60, you're like, you had one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, And it showed. Most of the people I knew, they looked like they were ready to drop dead any minute, old wrinkly and everything else. But the women today, and the men too, we are aging much better than we did 30, 40 years ago. So, But I don't think anybody should have a problem with it. I think you should celebrate your ability to live another year. I mean, realistically, I thank God every morning I wake up that I got to wake up, because you never know. But I just, like I said, I just don't get it. Ray says, when you go past my bedtime, you lull me to sleep, then remind me in the morning to watch what I missed. There you go. Yeah, yeah. James says Jim needs to swear more. Oh, fuck. That's all I do. I mean, that's just the way I talk. I mean, some people are offended by it. To those people, I apologize, but it's the way I am. It's the way I was brought up. My mother was worse than I am. Can you imagine that? She had to use the word fuck about every other, maybe 2 words. Fuck this, fuck that, fuck you, fuck around. Fuck everything, fuck nothing. I mean, that was her favorite word. I must have picked it up, I guess. And, she used to yell at me when she was still alive. Why do you got to use that word? Why did you use it? Well, I don't anymore. I said, but you did. You know, you'd put most drunken sailors to shame. I don't want to hear your shit. You don't have any right to tell me I need to calm my language down. Fuck you. So, they're just words anyway. Don't mean anything, not really. Old is 10 years older than what you are. I'll accept that. So, so there it goes. When we were 20, someone that was 30 that's true. I mean, back in the day, I mean, I was around old people most of my life. I mean, people that were like in their, 50s and up. I never thought much about it. Like I said, I was kind of amazed. Like, my dad lived to be 91, and he didn't look bad for 91. I said Alzheimer's got him in the end, but appearance-wise, he looked pretty good for a 91-year-old man. Well, after he passed, I met another man who was also 91. Mine was 100% intact, still working, excellent physical condition. I didn't believe he was 91. He pulled out his driver's license. So I'm not lying to you. Check the date. Son of a bitch, you were born in 1919, just like my dad. I said, how the hell did you do it? He said, I don't know. I never thought about it. So I mean, it's a crapshoot in a way. Some people age better than others. Some people live longer than others. You just never really know. I mean, family lineage probably has something to do with it. Like I said, my family, on my dad's side anyway, the magic age is 91. On my mother's side, late 80s, even 90. So it could go either way on that. Like I said, they killed my mother in the hospital because they gave her morphine, which she was highly allergic to. That's what killed her. She died at 80. My dad, his sister, I think my Uncle Johnny, he was retarded. He made it to 91. He was an institution all his life, still made it to 91 years old. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I got a shot at 91 after all. I figured the stroke, and, of course, my dad had like 4 heart attacks. I've had 2, But the stroke, I figured, might have actually shortened my lifespan, but who knows, So, we'll live as long as we do, and that's all there is to it, Could die tonight, could die, 30 years from now. No one knows. But, that damn thing locked up on me again. There we go. He says, Derek, other than a few here in chat, you're all youngsters. Oh, not really. I mean, we're all getting up there. Floyd says, time for me to go. All right, Floyd, have a good one, man. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Ray says, my youngest is 34. Well, my oldest is 42 or 43. No, maybe, I'm not even sure. I was 19 when my daughter was born. So I'm not up to doing the math tonight, but I know she's over 40. And so both my daughters are a year apart. So whatever my April is, Nova's like a year younger. And then the boys, well, my one son passed, but my other son, he was 3 years younger than my youngest daughter. And then my youngest son, he's in his late 20s. I think he's 28, 29. I'm bad with birthdays and shit, but like I said, I'm already a great granddad. I've got great grandbabies. So it's weird, I said my oldest daughter, her daughter, just had a baby. That makes me a great grandpa. I think I'm a great grandpa twice over now, and a granddad, I think 4 or 5 times over. It's weird, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's where everything is at now, pretty much. And a weird thing, my clock, you've seen my clock before that I printed many years ago. It was about 10 hours off, and I don't know why. The battery's fairly new in it. And I don't know what happened, but I had to reset the time today because I'm going, wait a minute, that ain't right. And that's a brand new clock movement, too. I think I bought that 7 or 8 months ago, I think, because the old one quit. Sometimes weird things happen for no apparent reason. You have no idea. But, it is what it is. So, the wife's due back on the 30th. And that'll be fun, you know. I'm looking forward to it, though. I got a pretty good dose of living alone. I can't say I enjoy it, you know. That's some people. I said, well, you know, how's it feel being alone if you got used to it? I don't think you ever really get used to it. You know, I think if you have the choice, you're going to accept it. But do you want it or get used to it? I don't think so. I mean, I may be in the minority there, but, you know. I was, you know, my dad was that way. He went after his third wife, my mother, left him. He was done. I think at that time he was 57 or 58. I don't remember exactly. Um, he was done. He was done with women. And he swore off women after that. And I said, you know, you're going to tell me that you're going to spend the rest of your life alone? Oh, yeah, I ain't worried about it. And he did, you know. And the weird thing was, there were women that were interested in him. I mean, he was a good-looking man for his age, you know. He didn't have a lot of money, but, I mean, he had more than I did, obviously. Well, to some degree. But and there were nice-looking women that were interested in him. He would just blow them off, man. I'm not interested in you. Go away. I'm going, how could you do that? I mean, you know, the older you get, you're gonna get lonely at some point. And you hear about this shit all the time where, you know, people die in their house, and by the time somebody finds them, their bodies are half rotten, you know, because nobody knew. Nobody checked up on them. It's like, you really want to go there, you know. I said, wouldn't you rather have somebody with you? So if you die, you know, they can at least alert the authorities. You know, go stinking up the house or whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's just, I don't know. It's weird. Hey, Jim, are you going to have some time tonight? Want to redesign the BD20 holder, a little more beef on the top pieces? Not tonight, but I'll be more than happy to do it tomorrow sometime. I'll give you a call and we can work on the dimensions together. I thought you already came up with a better model though. But if you didn't, we can work on it, get it taken care of. But no, not tonight though, man. I'm probably gonna go to bed early tonight. Yeah, that's what old people say, right? And there's some truth to it. But, you know, let's face it, when you get up in your 80s, I don't give a fuck how you feel. You're fucking old. You know, as a rule. We talking about that. Hey, Russ, how you doing? Good to see you here, Russ. Russ is rockin' O and HO trains and stuff. No, we're not talking about the Hackmans. I don't know who the fuck they are. If he dies and the person with him is alone, that's true. I mean, it's, yeah, well, the thing, we're all gonna die at some point. I mean, you can't avoid it, you know, unless you're an immortal and don't realize it. You're gonna die. Well, that'd be weird though if you found out you couldn't die, you were immortal. Wouldn't that be fucking cool in a way? But I don't know. Jim, I thought I did, but some of them fall off the lip. It's too thin. Yeah, it's easy enough to figure out. I've got some here that I made up that I still have. I'll look at that. And we'll see where we can beef it up without affecting the board itself, because I know that was an issue, is getting it set up so the board wouldn't be too tight or too loose in there. So we'll work on it tomorrow. But really, I don't think I'd be any good at it tonight anyway. I said that one guy, Dave, I can't remember his last name now. He wanted me to give him the file. I told him, I said, I don't know, man. I said, that's one of those things I like to sell, you know. I said, I'll make you some. I don't want to buy them. Fuck you, man. And some things, some files I'll give away. I don't have an issue with. I use mostly files that I've modified. I don't have a problem giving those away because they weren't mine to begin with. But anything that I built from scratch, yeah, I'm kind of attached to it. You know, the BG20 ones, the lighted ones, those are something that I designed myself. You know, and I feel like I'm giving away money if I just give away the file. Oh, Gene Hackman, yeah. Well, that was a weird thing, Russ. I mean, and they said that I read the story, and I don't. You said they're still not quite sure, but they think that his daughter actually might have engineered their deaths. She's in prison right now, I guess. Um, Apparently, she was after the money, and the wife. I don't remember what killed her. I think didn't she have that disease from rats? I can't think of the name of it right now, but they say he had Alzheimer's, and the daughter might have taken his drugs, so he wasn't taking any medications the way he was supposed to, and that's what killed him. That's fucked up, man. You know. Jim, sounds good. I should be home around 3 p.m. I have to take Barbara to doctors in the AM. All right, that's cool, yeah, because I got some stuff to do in the morning, too. So, yeah, 3 o'clock sounds good. I'll give you a call around there. And we'll power through that and get it done. Yeah, hantavirus, that's what it was. Um, yeah, there's still things that don't, you know. And then I heard another story that he had a basement or some underground caves or something under his house, and they found supposedly dead bodies under there, children's bodies and stuff. So he might have been, doing something with those kids, like a rapist or something. You don't know what the hell the truth is anymore. But still. And then, of course, the one dog died because it was in a cage. I guess the other dogs were running loose and they were okay, but you don't really. I mean, if you're dead, do you know you're dead? You know, that's just it. I mean, depending who you talk to, either you don't know you're dead, or you realize you're dead, but you've moved on. You left the shell behind, but your spirit or soul, whatever, lives on and goes somewhere else. I mean, the only ones that know are the ones that have been through it. The rest of us have to guess. Who knows? But but you do hear about that shit all the time, though. I mean, Well, my mother-in-law, she was living in a Section 8 apartment complex, and her neighbor across from her, he died, and it was starting to stink the place up a little bit, And I guess it was her or one of her other neighbors looked through the window. It was on the ground floor, and they saw him laying naked, what was left of him, in the living room floor, and they, called the sheriff, and they came in, and I was a little late for a wellness check, but he'd been dead for 3 or 4 days. I mean, it's gonna happen, I guess, if you're alone, because who's there to really keep an eye on you? If you don't have any kids or they're out of state, or don't give a shit, it can go either way. But Jim, I think some do. I have seen people walking around that look dead, so they must know. Possibly. Who knows? Yeah, 2 dogs are finer with new families. One dog died. Well, that was the one that was in the cage. And I think it starved, they said, or dehydrated or something. But I mean, it's unfortunate, but what's weird is these people are wealthy. They're movie stars, Well, Gene was anyway. Why didn't they have anything in place that could alert the authorities if something happened? I mean, my wife keeps threatening to get me one of those fucking first alert bracelets or whatever. I think they're called first alert. I've fallen down, I can't get up one, and it's supposed to, alert people that you fell down. I mean, and to some degree, I kind of agree with her because, anything could happen at any time. And I'm not really surgically attached to my phone. So, and who's going to check up on me? You know, when she comes back, yeah, she'll be around, but, but even then, what if she goes to the store or whatever and I fall and break a hip? Well, I hope that never happens, but, I could be in big trouble for a long time till she got back, or it could even die and it'd be too much. So, I seriously thinking about maybe that might not be a bad idea to get one of those first alert things. It sucks because I think when you do that, you finally have to admit to yourself, whether you like it or not, that you're fucking old. And I think one of the deals is that you tend to, even though you realize you're old, you don't really believe you're old. You say, well, I'm 65, it's just a number. But the reality is, I'm old. And the older I get, the more frail I'm going to get. It could happen. I've had close calls where I almost fell, but didn't quite. I just ordered some new shoes because these are getting so stretched out, they catch the floor. And like I said, my balance is terrible. And I almost went down the other day. Fortunately, the fridge was there. I was able to grab the fridge handle and right myself real quick. But had it not been there, I would have hit the floor. Would I have gotten hurt? Probably not. But still, And of course, the phone was, probably 30 foot away from me. So, what am I supposed to do? Crawl for it? But I'm not going to carry that motherfucker on my person 24/7 either. I refuse to do it. So, here we are. Russ says I look like a zombie sometimes. I don't think I look like one, but sometimes I feel like one. You wake up, you're stiff as shit, and you're thinking, man, this sucks, And then 5 minutes later, you're fine. It is what it is. Derek says, Big Jim, I always wondered about that. Anyone who ever had surgery and was knocked out knows they were alive and being worked on, but they had no idea, like being dead. But breathing and heart pumping. Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, like I said, I died on the table when they were putting the stents in. The last time I was in there when my heart quit. And I have a defibrillator pacemaker. And apparently it brought me back. But I was only dead for maybe a second, maybe two. I remember because I was awake for the operation. They want you semi-conscious. And I just remember it blacked out. Everything went black. And I woke up, like I said, couldn't have been more than a few seconds. My leg is swinging in the air. My arm's flowing around. My head fell off the little dish that it was laying on. And they're yelling at me, Mr. Tedesco, you need to lower your legs so we can finish the operation. I'm going. And I was like disoriented. And I go, what happened, Well, they knew that I died. I didn't, And after the surgery, the nurse goes, how'd you like the horse kick? And I'm going, the fuck are you talking about, She goes, well, your pacemaker did its job. It restarted your heart because your heart stopped. I'm going, well, I don't remember that. She says, well, you're lucky because she says, it's like getting kicked by a horse. And I'm going, I've never been kicked by a horse, but imagine it fucking hurts, She says, well, yeah, you get a pretty severe shock to restart your heart. I have no knowledge of it, I believe it happened because they told me it did, but even when I went to get my pacemaker checked a few years later, because they can because it keeps a record of everything. They said, well, you had an event before. When did that happen? I'm going, well, I died on the operating table after they put it in. And he says, well, what year was that? I said, well, it would have been, I don't remember what year it was now, but I named the year. Oh, yeah, that's the right time then. I think it said it would have been like 5 years prior. This is, but nothing recent, Larry. No, you're fine after that. It was just that one event. And, it gives a date, but I think they were trying to figure out if I knew about it or not. Well, like I said, I really didn't. But Jim, you're only as old as the woman you feel. In that case, I'll be young forever. All I know is YouTube keeps sending me crap to watch on this. It has an AI voice, and I report it as spam. It's all clickbait. I've seen a lot of clickbait too, man. It pisses me off. Uh, I've reported a few things too. You know, uh, misinformation mostly. That's not Al. It's AI, artificial intelligence. I just downloaded a program. It's called shit. Hold on a second. Let me find it here. I forgot what it's called. Oh, Amuse. And that's what it is. It's artificial intelligence. And I could use AI to create drawings and videos and shit. I haven't really had a chance to play with it yet, but you type in the box what you want. Say you want a big ugly dog playing on the beach. It'll generate an AI picture of that. It's pretty slick. And it's free, you know. I got an email notification of it, so I downloaded it. It works good on this computer. Not so much on the other one, but I think it's probably because I have a shit. I can't remember that. I got the better video card on this. I can't think of the name of it right now, but because it's really designed for that particular type of video card. Or I have a I can't remember half these names anymore. I have a different brand video card, the other computer. So it seems to work better out here. That's cool, but it's something to play with. What's that one? It says ready to sell a commercial on TV. AI versus Al Bundy. Oh, there's that one. They got I can't remember the show now. I always forget the name of that. I tell you, I'm losing my mind. At the beginning, it's AI generated. You remember when Trump had the meeting with Zelensky in the White House? Well, AI took that and has them throwing fists at each other. It looks like they're really fighting. I mean, it's all AI generated. It's fake, but it fucking looks real, you know? And I think it's the coolest thing in a way, but then it's kind of scary too because, you know, let's say Trump actually does get assassinated. They could AI generate him to be alive and we wouldn't know the difference, you know? Some scary shit. Don't go there, Jimmy. All right. Now, like I said, I don't trust much, but I wouldn't put it in charge of anything. Kind of fun to play with, though. But it does have a filter on it. You can't do anything nude. Because I wanted to say, you know, naked women playing on the beach, and it wouldn't do it. I'm thinking, well, what the fuck? And I can't figure out how to take the filter off, so I don't think it's possible. It's probably just not capable of it. So that takes all the fun out of it, don't it? Russ said I had a procedure once. I was totally asleep, not aware of anything. They thought I was asleep for only a few minutes. Doctor said I was asleep for 3 hours. Well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, I've been put under a few times when I had my gallbladder removed. They put me under. They put me under when they put the pacemaker in. And I said I'm gonna have to get a new pacemaker. I think next year, depending. I know they say once it gets to 50%, they'll replace it. Now mine is good for 7 years, but I've had it for like 6. So I think it was at 68% the last time they checked it. But if it gets down to 50, they'll say, all right, well, it doesn't matter. You're going to get a new one anyway. I don't know what, because they don't change the wires. Because the wires go into your heart. That was part of the procedure. But the unit itself, which is up here, like up almost near my shoulder, pretty big. It's about like that. I think it has a plug-in. And they just open you up, pull it out, unplug the wires, plug the new one in, and stuff it back in there, sew it up, And it may probably be outpatient, I would think. Will they put me under for it? Probably. But I really have no idea how it's done. If any of you guys had a second pacemaker put in, you could probably remember what they did. So I mean, I'm not scared or anything. It is what it is, but you know, it's pretty minor. Because I said the thing's right here. I could feel it. You know, I could feel the outline of it. It's just sitting there. You know. I know when they first put it in, I couldn't use my left hand for like 6 weeks. Well, I'm left-handed and my right hand don't work, so you can use your imagination the problems I ran into. You know, for 6 weeks anyway. Of course, I don't have that problem now because, you know, fixed that, but that was so that it wouldn't pull the wires out of your heart. I think there's like 8 wires, and I got an X-ray that shows the unit and the wires going into my heart. And it's pretty sophisticated, actually. It's kind of an amazing device, you know, to do what it does. Tom goes, Jim, when I got my second pacemaker, it was outpatient procedure, and I was under for about 4 hours. Yeah, makes sense. As I said, I don't think it's a big deal because they're not going to replace the wires. That would be foolish, and they're already grown in anyway. So you're going to have a plug-in, and you just unplug the old one, plug the new one in, and, you know, and you're good to go. So the only problem I had after they put it in, because I remember when I woke up, you know, because they said they put me under for it, obviously, and they had my left arm strapped, which sucked, you know. Because I remember waking up on a gurney, they were taking me back to my room, and I couldn't move my left arm. I'm going, you know, and I looked, and they had me restrained. They said, you can't move your left arm for 6 weeks. You know, I go, that sucks. I'm left-handed. You know? So, but anyway, they sent me in to see the technician. She was, you know, how's your pacemaker? I said, I guess it's working. She goes, but should it feel like this? Because it was like pounding my chest, you know, every beat. Boom, boom. And she goes, no, it's not supposed to do that. I said, well, can you fix that? She goes, yeah, hold on. She tapes a couple things there. Went right away. I said, yeah, that took care of it. You're good to go. You know, I'm thinking, that's some scary shit, man, you know. Somebody ever got that serial number, it could kill you. And I don't know if there'd be a record of it or not, you know. Because I know when I got my pacemaker checked last year, the fucking technician, she goes, I'm going to do something. Don't freak out. And I'm going, if you're going to do something I shouldn't be freaked out, I'm probably going to be freaked out, you know. She said, no, it'll be fine. So she did something. I think she sped my heart up. And I felt it, and it didn't feel good. And she was, you know, she drank stuff down. Like 5 minutes, I said, well, can you put it back now? Oh, yeah, I forgot. That's some scary shit, man. You forgot? You know? The fuck? That's why I don't like doctors, because, you know, are they any good or are they all quacks? Ray says, when I broke my arm in 3 different places, the doc asked me if I wanted a local or general anesthetic. I said, what's the difference? He said, one you get to watch us put you back together, other is you'll sleep through it. It wouldn't bother me to watch as I didn't feel it, you know. I mean, I've seen stuff, you know. It wouldn't bother me, you know. But I think realistically, I would just say put me under and be done with it. You know, when you're done, I'll wake up. Because when they were putting the stent in me the first time, I woke up and I kind of freaked out. I go, yeah, guys, I'm awake. Am I supposed to be awake? And like, yeah, that's okay. We want you awake. Are you sure? Yeah, you know, it's all right. You need to be awake for this. It's all right. And it was weird because I could feel them, you know, slip. It's not a big wire. What is it, a cam or whatever? And you know, they insert it in your thigh, and it goes up to your heart, and you could feel it, you know, all the way in your heart. And it was the weirdest feeling, like somebody was in there with like a pull string or something, just moving around, you know. It was kind of weird, but, you know. But once they assured me I was supposed to be awake, I was okay. But I mean, I kind of freaked out because my friend, he passed now, but he's been dead for a long time. But he had a heart transplant. He's one of the early recipients. This was back in the mid '80s, and he woke up during the operation. And you talk about the doctors freaking out because I mean, he couldn't see anything, but they had his chest opened up and they just put the new heart in, and he came out of anesthesia and he wasn't supposed to. And boy, they put him under real quick, you know. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's some fucked up shit, you know. But he also said too that because they basically they kill you when they do that. You do die, in a way. You know, you're like on life support, but you're technically dead. He claims, and like I said, I didn't doubt him. I don't think he was full of shit or anything, but he said that he rose above his body and was watching them do the procedure, putting his heart in. Did he? Maybe, I don't know, but it's still kind of weird, you know. Tom says, Jim, my second pacemaker was installed in 2019 and now has 4 years battery life. I can check it on my phone with Bluetooth to the pacemaker. Yeah, I don't have that option. Of course, I was supposed to get a device that was supposed to be in the house that would actually send the signal back to my doctor. It was supposed to check it every night. I never got it. I inquired about it. They kept dicking me around. I just said, you know what? Whatever. Now, the new one I get is supposed to probably be good for 10 years. I understand there, maybe even more now. They said mine was only good for 7. Didn't you tell me yours was good for 10? And somebody else told me theirs was good for 10. So that every year they seem to get a little more longer and longer. I mean, you never know. One of these days they'll come up with, last for 30 years. You still have to have it checked every now. He said next month on May 5th, I have to go down to Naples to see the cardiologist. They're going to check the pacemaker and, just basically a general check by my cardiologist. But they're checking my pacemaker every 6 months now. As the closer you get toward that 7 years, the closer, because if it fails, I guess you die. I guess, So we'll see what happens, but I guess which one I chose. We know what you chose. You chose to be put out. Like I said, I mean, when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. Yeah, whatever, I'll watch you do it, But now, not so much. So no, they had to slice me open, put bones back together with plates and screws. Didn't want to watch all that. Yeah, I know, it's amazing what they do, isn't it? So Jim, my first pacemaker was 11 years, and this one will be 11 to 12 years. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why mine's only, well, maybe mine does more. I've got a 3-in-1. Mine does the defibrillator, pacemaker, and sequencer. I think the sequencer probably takes more juice. I guess my heart doesn't beat properly without the sequencer. Apparently, the last heart attack I did a lot of damage to it. So, but it's gotten better. So maybe, like you said, I don't know. We'll find out when they put it in. But Jim, my pacemaker sends a report every 3 months. Yeah, that's what. Well, mine was supposed to do the same thing with this device. I was supposed to be in my bedroom, and it would read it every night when I went to bed. Wi-Fi, wirelessly. I never got the device, so this time I'll probably be a little more insistent on it. Jim, I just plugged myself into a wall and it charges it. You're kidding me, right? I don't think. I don't know. 3-in-1, how often do you oil it? There you go. It's doing its thing. That's all I know. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I could feel it, I wouldn't probably realize I have it. My heart seems to work the way it's supposed to. I mean, the heartbeat changes and my pulse. It's anywhere from 68 to, I think the highest I've ever seen was like 90, 91 beats per minute. I don't do anything that strenuous, so. And the sequencer, I guess it does what it's supposed to. My question was, and when I got it, I says, is this shielded for EMP? And they looked at me like, oh, some sort of, moron or something. And I'm going, well, it's a valid question. If there's an EMP attack, Will I die? Will it knock out my pacemaker? Well, no, it should be shielded. And I'm thinking, you're probably full of shit, aren't you? And I've never gotten a concrete answer, so I don't know. The problem is, a lot of people have these. So an EMP attack, they're not shielded. A shitload of people are going to die under an EMP attack. Electromagnetic pulse. It's not good, So, and the only way you could, protect yourself would be to climb into one of those boxes. What the hell you call them? Fuck, I can't remember what they're called now, but it protects you against EMP, but it has to be a pretty big box, So I don't have one of those. Maybe I should invest in one. Now, of course, though, you'd have to know about it before it happened, because once it happens, it's too late. Yeah, Faraday cage. That's it. I couldn't remember the name. Thanks for reminding me of that, guys. That would be the only way to protect yourself, if it wasn't shielded. And I don't see how it could be, to be honest with you. But I honestly don't know, Raymond Anthony, 127, just got here, had things to do. No problem. You're here now. That's all that matters. So that was the only question I really had for them. And of course, the first time I had it checked, which I think was about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I don't remember now, but I asked the technician was a guy, and he seemed to know what he was doing. I says, they told me this thing has an alarm in it. He says, yeah, it does. I says, I thought I heard it once, but it turns out it wasn't. I says, can you set it off so I know what to listen for? He says, oh, absolutely. So he taps in some keys and this thing goes off. And it's loud. You can't mistake it. Sounds like a European cop siren. It's loud as shit too, I'm thinking, well, that'd be easy to remember. If I hear that, I'll know to shit myself, Because I heard like a beep, beep, beep once. It wasn't my pacemaker, it was something in the house. But like the way I was hearing it, it sounded like it was local. And I'm going, oh shit, something went wrong here, I better get to the hospital. And I got to thinking, nah, it couldn't be, Because it stopped too, and if it was bad, it would actually keep going. So when you hear that European siren, you better get to a hospital. But it was weird, though. I was surprised that they did that. But so I said, well, there's no mistaking that sound, right? So the app also gives my heart rate and blood pressure. That's cool. That would be handy because I do that stuff basically manually. I have a blood pressure machine, and I even have one of those oximeters that you to test your blood gas, oxygen. I got all that crap, So. Raymond says, yeah, I know, you got here precisely when you were meant to. All right, Anthony, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. We'll see you next time. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which, leaves you wide open. Does the Faraday cage work on Tuesdays? Asking for a friend. It should work every day. But like I said, you'd have to do it before the EMP went off. Afterwards, it's too late. But, well, of course, it wouldn't matter on this because this is operating all the time. But I read somewhere that they've been lying to us about the extent an EMP would actually do. They said, like your car, if your car wasn't running when the EMP went off, it wouldn't harm your car. If the car was running, it would fuck up all the electronics. Same thing with, appliances in the house. If they're not on when the EMP occurs, like your stove or your dishwasher or what, anything with electronics, it won't damage them. It only damages things that are actually operating. Now, I don't know how true it is, because like I said, I was under the understanding that EMP would wipe out everything, whether it's on or not. But they said that we're being lied to about it, and that it'll still be a problem, but not as extensive as they'd have you believe. So I don't know. It's tricky. I hope we will never find out, because like I said, I don't know that, I would survive such a thing or anybody else with a pacemaker. And that would suck, wouldn't it? And then again, maybe they aren't. Maybe they are shielded. Who the hell knows? I mean, basically, a Faraday cage is nothing more than a metal cage that stops the signal from going into another metal object. It's pretty basic, you know. You can make them yourself with tinfoil, actually. But, so I don't know. I mean, they could have actually shielded it. Who knows? You know, I mean, I know the thing in my chest was $35,000. My pacemaker. That's what they told me, and I got that 5 years ago. I imagine the new ones are probably 50,000. You know, which is ridiculous, but you know, thank God I have to pay that much for it. I'm going, shit, I got a net worth now 35 grand. Just me, you know. Thank God they're not stealing them like they do the catalytic converters. Wouldn't that suck, you know? You're fucking lounging in the store somewhere, and next thing you know, you're dead. Somebody stole your pacemaker for the value of it. Like they steal your catalytic converter, right? That would be weird. Tom says, Jim, I have a get out of jail card. They have to pat me down at the airport. Cannot go through x-ray machines they use. Oh yeah, because of the pacemaker. That's a good point. I know they're a lot safer now than they used. The old pacemaker, my late ex-father-in-law, you know, my ex-wife's dad, he had his, they used to put it in his gut. It was a big ass fucking round thing with one wire coming out. That's all it did, was a pacemaker. And he couldn't go near microwave ovens, and he was a professional chef by trade. So his career ended right at that point. But he couldn't be around any electricity whatsoever. If he get even a minor shock, it would knock out the fucking pacemaker and kill him. So, I mean, he was, you know, they think my mother-in-law, late mother-in-law, now ex-mother-in-law, they think she killed him at the airport because he died under mysterious circumstances. And if somebody would have scared him, that his heart was bad enough to where even a good scare would have killed him. You know, and the pacemaker wouldn't have done him any good. But so they've come a long way from that. I mean, these are safe around microwaves anyway. I know they told me to try not to get shocked. And I don't know about Tom, I'm sure you used them too, the static grass applicator. I got one here, you know. And I got shocked a couple times with it since I had the pacemaker. Scared me the first time. Oh, fuck, I fucked my pacemaker up. Apparently it didn't. You know, I mean, it was, you know, it's a quick shock, but it's a lot of voltage, not a lot of amps. It hurt though, you know. So now I wear rubber gloves when I use the machine so I won't get juiced again. But I wasn't thinking when I was using it, you know, I got too close to the what do you call it, the whatever it's called, the needle, and it arced and I got juiced, you know. It's like, fuck, you know. As I said, I work on electrical stuff in the house, you know. I ran the electric for that mini split. I turned the power off because I figured, why not, you know. But I've done, the one I did most of the house, I did it live. Just careful not to get shocked, you know. Am I being stupid? Maybe. But I also believe that I'm a pretty good electrician, so, you know. But I'm very much aware, though, don't get shocked, because, you know. And I don't know if they tell you that to cover their asses or not. Kevin Beverly, how you doing, man? Good to see you here. So I don't know, but like I said, I don't want to take a chance because, you know, I don't know if they could do anything before it'd be too late and I'd be dead, you know. So it was funny because my wife, she asked me after I got the pitch, she says, does this mean that you're immortal? I'm going, no, I can still die, but probably not from a heart attack, you know. I said, boy, wouldn't that be cool if it did make you immortal, though, wouldn't it? Yeah, you can't die now, right? But no, she really didn't understand how it worked and what it did and all, you know. I said, no, it's just, Dick Cheney, the old vice president under Bush, he had the first defibrillator pacemaker. In fact, I think he had something to do with the design of it. He had something like 20 or 30 fucking heart attacks, you know. His heart was like totally toast, but that thing saved his life every time, you know. And So he wasn't immortal, but it did save him, you know. So and thank God for that, because now we all, I mean, without it, I might not have survived, you know. Because like I said, the pacemaker was just kind of a minor issue. The sequencer was the big thing. My heart wasn't beating in the proper pattern, and they were talking, you know, at the time they were actually kicking around a heart transplant. I said, no, I won't do it, you know, just let me die, because I refuse to get a heart transplant, or any transplant for that matter. Um, you know, when it's your time, you're going, and I don't agree with, because of the problems uh, that come with transplants. You know, I remember what's his face there had the kidney transplant. His first one failed. And luckily, he got a second one. But you know, he went through hell for a while with that whole deal. And I said I had a friend had a heart transplant. He went through hell too. He made it 7 years, and I think he just gave up, and he just died. You know, he was done. He had more problems than solutions with that. You know, artificial heart. Well, artificial, but you know, it was a younger kid's heart that he got, between rejection and all kinds of other, because they knock down your immune system. So it's easier to get sick, really sick. And he got some disease twice, or it wasn't a disease, it was some sort of a viral thing that heart recipients get because they knock your immune system down. He spent 30 days in the hospital each time, you know. I mean, I could see why the guy gave up. Fuck this, you know. So, I mean, I'm just kind of weird with that, but it is what it is. Jim, I use my static grasp machine with no problem. I cannot have an MRI done either. Yeah, they were going to give me an MRI, and I said, I can't do that. I got a pacemaker. Oh, you do? Yeah, don't you know that? You know? Well, we could do it on low. I know you're not doing it all. You know? I said, I'm not going to take the chance of you fucking up and having you rip that fucking thing out of my body. You know? The fucking MRI machine. Now, you could do a CAT scan, which actually is more accurate than the MRI anyway. The CAT scan is safer to use because it uses radiation and not magnetism. So I said, you got to be on top of these fucking doctors, because motherfuckers will kill you if you let them. So Jim went in the doctor's office to get the first pacemaker. My heart rate was only 20, and I drove 25 miles to get to. Jesus Christ! I'm surprised you were still awake. I think mine got down to 53 once, and I thought I almost passed out. You know, and I was like, well, that's not good. And that was with the pacemaker. There was something else going on there. They were over medicating me, you know, with the blood pressure drugs. And you know, I mean, the pacemaker had my pulse was. No, the pulse was low because it couldn't keep up. I don't remember exactly, but no, it wasn't. My pulse was high, but my blood pressure was really low. I mean, ridiculously low. So, like I said, it's a little scary. Ray says, the last time I got a CAT scan, I told them there would be no cats in my head, just pictures of steam locos and trash plants. That other one, guy brings his dog in, or a bird. Yeah, it was a bird, and the bird's dead, you know. And he said, "Doc, you got to make sure, is he really dead?" Well, we can do some tests, but you know, it's gonna cost you money. So I don't care. I want to make sure that he's really dead, because you know, if he's not, save him. So they bring out a cat. Cat goes around 3 or 4 times and then leaves, you know. And I can't remember, there was something else they did too, but you know, when he got the bill was like $5,000. He says, what the fuck, you know? He says, well, we give you a CAT scan. The cat ran around the bird, and you know, it didn't do anything because the bird was dead, you know. I fucked up the delivery on that, but it was funny as shit, you know. The CAT scan is something else. I can't remember what it was, but it had something to do with a dog. So, because they brought a dog out, and the dog did something, and then it walked away. And so the dog did something, and then the CAT scan. It was a black lab. We did the lab on it, and the lab didn't see nothing. Then we brought the cat out to do the CAT scan, or get the CAT scan, and it didn't find nothing. So yeah, your bird is dead. Fucked up shit, man. What if you have a dental crown with the MRI? Well, say yeah, I guess. I mean, anything that's magnetic, it could tear out of your body. The same thing if you had like a steel bar, or, a bar in your leg or your arm or something, a rod. It could rip. It could rip it right out of your body. It's hot, I mean, you hear about shit like, that's why you don't see things in the MRI room like fire extinguishers and shit. It'd tear them off the wall. Same thing, I think, with furniture and stuff. Well, it has to be non-magnetic. I mean, it's a little scary, like I said. I've had MRIs done, I think, 3 or 4 times. When I had the stroke, they went ahead and they did one on my head. And then when I had the gallbladder, they did one on my gallbladder, too. I've had numerous CAT scans as well. The only thing I don't like about the CAT scan is they did the CAT scan on my head, and the radiation kind of fucked with my eyes a little bit, not permanent or anything. But I was like almost seeing stars a little bit. It was weird. I don't like shit that fucks with my vision. Let's see. Jim, the nurses in the office called Mr. Grassy the Walking Dead. Well, what can I say? So yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't like doctors. I don't like hospitals. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with them for the rest of my life. I mean, minor things, thank God. Hopefully, knock wood, but I mean, when they told me, when I went to the hospital, when I had the big heart attack, and they said, we can't do anything, just go home and die. I mean, I was kind of out of it anyway, because they had me all morphined out, but I'm like, well, that sucks. I mean, I didn't really freak out. Maybe it didn't sink in yet. But I was getting ready to leave the hospital, and this doctor comes up that I hadn't seen before, and he said, look, if you want to live, you can't go home and you can't stay here. You got to go up to Orlando. I said, well, what's in Orlando? He said, the best heart doctors, in America. I said, all right, well, how do I get there? He said, well, we'll arrange for, an ambulance to take you up there. I said, all right. So then they did. And both me and Deb both went up. She came with me. And I hallucinated and everything on the trip. I remember the trip, but I was hallucinating a lot. They had me really fucked up on morphine, And they kept wanting to give me more. And Deb finally said, he doesn't need any more. And he said, well, who are you? Well, I'm his wife, so I'm telling you, no more morphine. So they did give me it. They probably would have killed me, I mean, I was really seriously fucked up, man. And by the time we got to Orlando, they brought me to my room. I was in ICU because I had heart failure, my kidneys were failing, I had sepsis and pneumonia. Probably got those two from the hospital back in Naples, And I was not in good shape, but I didn't feel bad. I mean, once the morphine wore off, I'm like, they had me IVs. They had like 12 IVs in me for antibiotics. They said, well, you got pneumonia. You're in bad shape. I'm going, I feel fine. I said, I don't feel sick. I don't feel weak. I feel great, And your heart's quitting. Your kidneys are failing. You got sepsis and pneumonia. I'm going, are you sure? And I mean, I was up walking around and, I was antsy because they said, how far in the hospital? Because, well, you can go anywhere you want on the floor. I said, all right. I'd be walking around the hospital just checking things out because I couldn't stand being in the ICU room for too long. My hardest part is I couldn't sleep because I had all this shit strapped to me, and I just couldn't get comfortable. So, I mean, those fucking gowns they give you, I wound up taking the gown off and slept naked because I slept better, I know, TMI, right? But they didn't care, and I certainly didn't either. So I said, and I a couple times asked them for a sleeping pill because I couldn't sleep. Deb's on the couch snoozing away. I'm thinking, must be nice. She can sleep, and I can't. And maybe, like I said, I might have been a lot sicker than I realized. but I really didn't think I was that sick. So it was kind of weird, but, by the grace of God, I'm still here. But, and like I said, everything kind of came back up. My kidney function came back. My heart's actually getting stronger because I was down, I think they said 22% heart function. Like I said, they were talking, you may need a transplant. I said, no, we're not doing it. Well, you may die. I said, well, then I'll die. I think deep down I felt like, it would get better, and it did. I think they said it's up to like 69% now, heart function. They don't know why. Do I still need this? Yeah, I obviously I do, but so I mean, my body is repairing itself to some degree. So, Jim's just sent you a photo and a text message of the C clamp. Oh yeah, let me check it out. Oh, there it is. All right. Oh, that's pretty cool. Guys, check this out. The C clamp. You designed that, Tom, or did you find a file for it? That's pretty cool. I don't have a use for one, but if I ever do, I might ask you for that file. Pretty slick. I could have probably used it when I was putting the braces up for the second level. I mean, I had actual clamps, but they were kind of hard to use. And like I said, I don't have good use of my right arm. So I'm trying to hold with the right arm and then crank it down with the left. It was not fun, but I got it done. But it is what it is. Strange times. Yeah, I guess it is. It's weird. I wonder why he sent me that. A friend of mine sent me a text that says, strange times. No explanation, whatever, It's kind of weird. And somebody in Canada asked me if I was going to, where the hell was it? I erased it now, but asked me if I was going to be someplace, Irvine or something in Canada. I'm going, who the hell is this? I had no idea. And so, I mean, I get calls even on my number, and they're asking for some different people. I say, I think you got the wrong number, Well, is this 272-1331? Yeah, but I've had this number for like 30 years, Now, you got the wrong number, trust me. Ooh, okay. And Tom says, Jim, I designed this one. The ones I found, I didn't. Yeah, it looks like it's homemade, but it looks good. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I think it looks nice. I like it. Looks like a good design. So I shoot pocket pull left-handed. Well, if I were going to shoot pocket pull, yes, I would be left-handed. Now, before the stroke, I was ambidextrous. I used both equally. I could write legibly with either hand, even though I'm technically left-handed. But I've always had the ability, and because I live in a right-hand world, I played sports right-handed. I use power tools right-handed. I don't now because the right hand doesn't work that well anymore because of the stroke. But back before, yeah, I used both hands equally. I played baseball, golf. The thing I didn't do right-handed was bowling. Bowling I did left-handed. But all the other sports I always played right-handed. When I played violin, I played that right-handed. Now I wanted to play guitar, and the instructor back, and I think it was like 13 or 14 at the time. He says, well, we need to set you up with a left-hand guitar. That was a mistake. I couldn't play it, And I said, why don't you just give me a right-handed, well, because you're left-handed. I said, yeah, but I do everything like that right-handed. He refused to do it. So I just said, well, fuck this ain't for me. But if they had to give me a regular guitar to play with the right hand, I probably would have been fine. The same thing. They always think they're smarter than I am, but they're not. So now you only play with the oddballs. Right. If it wasn't so funny, I'd have to come up there and smack you. But it's funny. No, yeah, get someone to play with them for me. I don't have to play with my own anymore. But don't get me started. So yeah, it's just no. It's we're an odd bunch anyway. All of us are, aren't we? When you think about it, model railroaders. We're all a little, whacked out, probably. But hey, somebody's got to be, right. I had the steam engine come through day before yesterday, number 148, and I'm thinking I heard the horn. And it was really far down the road, because there's like several crossings between where it leaves and here. And I'm thinking, shit, I ought to go out there and videotape it, right? Well, next thing I know, I went out there to try and gauge where it was, and it was still really, really far away. So, all right, I'll come back out here in a little while, right? So I come back out, I forget the damn phone. Here it comes. I missed it. I mean, I saw it. I couldn't record it. Motherfucker. So it came back through a second time the opposite way. And I didn't realize it was coming, so once again, I missed it. So I'm talking to Tom Kvichak, Tom's transit thing. He says, there's 148 running today. I says, yeah, it's on this end of the train instead of the other end. The diesel engine's on the other train. And I think the diesel runs it back and then the steam runs it out. So I said, yeah, I'm going to try and catch it. I want to, do a little rail fanning and get good video of it because I think they're pushing like 4 or 5 cars now. It's gotten bigger. I said, for some, I got real tired. I'm going to go take a nap. Well, I hear the fucking horn, come out of a dead sleep. By the time I get the phone and get outside, it was gone. It never failed, And I'm trying so hard to get a good video of it lately, but the thing is, they don't really have a good time on it. They give you roundabout times, and I don't want to sit out in 90-degree weather and wait for a fucking train, I mean, I could take the pickup truck and just sit there and idle with the air on. At least I'd be comfortable. I guess I'd go up there by the intersection. And I may wind up doing that at some point, but I just take the scooter up, that I ride. There's no air conditioning on that, and it gets pretty damn hot out there real quick. Let's see. Jim just ordered a cordless soldering gun. This will help soldering things on the layout. I have one of those. How to wire on a signal break off the resistor. This way I can solder it in place. Now I've got one that's not electric. It's gas powered. You put propane in it and it's self-contained. I bought it some time back. I use it here and there because it's great when you can't get near electricity. Because otherwise I got, the big one here. But my Schneider, I like that one, but it has such a short power cord on it. Unless you hook an extension cord to it, you can't really do much with it. It's great for working on the bench, not so much for working on the layout. And like I said, when I get the second level going, with all the electrical shit in there, it's going to be a lot of soldering that I'm going to have to do in place. And I'll probably use the cordless one on that. Because really, it would be a pain in the ass to use this one with extension cord and all that horse shit with it. So the other thing I like about the gas one is it'll only run for about 20-25 minutes before it runs out of fuel, and you have to refill it. It doesn't have like a big reservoir, but it works good though. I had an electric cordless one. That was a gift that was given to me many years ago. It wasn't bad, but the batteries wore out real quick in it. I think it had the NiCads in there. You get one now, it's electric. You want to make sure it's got lithium batteries in it. And that would really be the way to go, Because like I said, the gas has its limitations. And it's real easy to burn yourself because, it's got an exhaust port. If you get that too close to your hand or your work, you're going to start melting shit, Forget about the tip. So I may look at buying an electric one. Let me know what you got. And I may even buy one myself because I think that would be the best way to go, a cordless, electric. Because I'm going to be having a lot of soldering to do underneath the second level. Because like I said, I don't know when, but eventually there'll be uh, the tortoise motors, switch motors. Gonna have quite a few of those because it'll be easy for me to work, and it's deep enough to where they can actually hide up underneath the bottom. So, as I said, the second level is going to be a lot easier to me to deal with. And I may not bolt down the tops until I get everything done anyway. Maybe do it in like modules, and then once they're in, then lock them down. We'll see. I'll reach that. I'll get to that bridge when I come to it. Damn, this thing locked up on me again. There we go. Races, I have seen them but never used one. They're nice, like I said. They're oh, absolutely right. They'd be perfect for doing the feeders. Like I said, I was using this one, but I would bring the track here and solder the feeders on before I'd put it back on the layout. Same thing with soldering some of the track together as well, with the joints, the joiners. But I was limited because I had to do it here because otherwise I'd have to move this whole machine. I don't really have a lot of free space for it. If I had to roll around in like cabinet or something, that would be handy, but I don't have one. But I'd still need the extension cord. It'd be a pain in the ass. So like I said, a cordless might be the best tool for doing on layout soldering jobs. I would think anyway. So that'd be something I'll have to look at. I'm sure that the newer ones are a lot nicer than the one I had. The one I had was, I got that about shit, 2005, I think. It was a Christmas gift actually from a friend, and it was a cordless soldering iron. I mean, well, that's fucking cool because I didn't use them that much back in the day, but I used them. And this is cordless. You just plug it in, charge it up, and then it was good for like an hour on a charge. But then, like all NiCads, it took a shit pretty quick. It's like, well, now what? Of course, it costs more to replace the battery than it would be to replace the unit. The guys sometimes, yeah, exactly. So I've done the same thing. You solder a joiner on a section of track because of a loose connection. I started soldering a lot of areas anyway. You get better connections that way as well. So if you're having, any kind of voltage drops in your track, it's the first place to look is in your joiners. Pain in the butt to drag a cord. I know exactly, man. It's not fun. That's what I said. That might. I'll have to look and see what they got out there. I know that they've got more than what they had way back in the day, and the one I had was kind of big. I mean, it must have like the equivalent of a 2C batteries in there, but they were NiCads. I mean, now they could do it with AAAs and it would be just as good, but they'd be, like I said, they'd be lithium, and the lithium lasts a lot longer too. I am with your train of thought, guy. There you go. Well, I mean, sometimes you just gotta, you gotta run with some of the stuff because it works better. Tom says, Jim, I got mine on Amazon. They had a nice, yeah, well, that's where I would look anyway. I mean, Amazon has everything, don't they? So I'll have to check into that because I like the idea. Like I said, the one I got, grab it. I think it's harder to get up sometimes. This is a Schneider too. But this is, like I said, this is a gas-powered one. Take the cover off. I don't think there's any, they got safeties on here too, which I think are a pain in the ass. You got a button here and I don't think it lit. I think it's low on gas, but you got a flame adjustment on there on the top. I mean, it does the job. But like I said, you got your vent here. If you get your hand anywhere near that, it's gonna burn you. You know, it's basically a little blowtorch. Like I said, at the time it did the job. I don't remember where I got this from or why I got it, but it was handy. And it's got a little protective cover you put on it. But yeah, it's made by the same company as my big one. They're both Schneider's. But I would rather have, like I said, an electric one. I think it would work better and have less problems with it. So I'll have to look in and see what they got and maybe plan for the future on that, right? Jim, the one I ordered had a USB connection to charge it. I will see how long the battery life is. It's probably got lithium batteries in because almost everything does now. I mean, if it has an iCAD, it's just not going to be worth the fuck. But the lithium ion, or what's that other one? Yeah, I think it's lithium ion are the ones that get. The batteries have a fairly good lifespan on them. Because, my laptop has NiCads in it. It's just permanent, though. You can't change it. I mean, not easily. And they're shot. This thing will hold the charge for about 2 minutes after you unplug it. So I have to plug it in anytime I want to use it. But the newer ones all have, lithium ion. And the battery life is way superior. Same thing, I had oh shit, what was it? I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of power to a little one. And it was a rechargeable NiCad, and the batteries took a shit in that in like 6 months. Waste of money. Oh, it was a die grinder. Now I've got a rechargeable die grinder now, but it has lithium ions in it. The batteries do last longer. Even though I did have to replace one of them. But, the NiCads just weren't a very good battery. They're garbage, by comparison. Ray says, I try to do as much soldering as I can before I put the track sections down on the back track. Same on the front, but not so much. Well, I do too. Whatever's easiest to do at the time. But, if you're putting together, say, 6 foot of track, flex track, and you solder it all together, you try and move around a 6 foot section of track. It ain't easy, Or it'd be a lot easier to solder it in place. But in order to do that, well, first it has to be accessible. And second, you've got to have something preferably rechargeable, cordless. Otherwise, you said, I was watching that one guy. What the hell is his name? I've seen him in a long time. He did track plans and builds. I can't. He's real famous. Well, not really famous, but y'all know him. I can't remember his name. He was soldering massive main lines and stuff, and he was using a corded soldering iron. I'm thinking, man, what a pain in the ass that was. We also had one of those rigs where I think Tom's got one. Climb up on it, and you can almost lay on it, so you can get the far reaches of your layout. A little ladder with like a table on the top you can actually lay on, so you can reach stuff. I mean, he had all those tools. He got crazy money too, to do these track builds. But I'm thinking, why didn't he go with a cordless, soldering iron? It would be so much easier. And some guys like the old school shit, so I do the same, but this is going to be for when you make a change or having exactly. Yeah, your creeper. I've seen them before. I would have gotten one because it'd be handy even for me, but I don't really have a place to store it. I was going to get one in my layout back in Naples, but that room was so small, that thing would have been a big problem. I mean, I liked it. It was a great idea, but yeah, Peter L. That's who it was, Gerald. I knew somebody. I couldn't remember his name. He's a hell of a guy. I mean, he could build you some layouts. But yeah, he does a lot of old school, work on them. And I said I was watching him do this massive layout. I mean, I don't know how big it was, but it was huge. Had like 6 or 8 main lines and, massive yards. I mean, he was soldering. Every joint was soldering, you know. Every feeder was soldered after it was laid out, and put in place. He didn't do anything beforehand. He did it afterwards. And I'm thinking, the guy's good at what he does, obviously, but I wouldn't do it that way. That's because I'm lazy. Jim, my creeper breaks down to 3 pieces and I can store. Oh, that's cool. The ones I saw, they didn't look like they could do that. Maybe they could, but they didn't never, they didn't tout that as a feature. So it's like, yeah, but yeah. Ray says, James, I understand, but they are useful for plenty of things. Well, they are. They said everything has. It depends, how much space you've got, how difficult. I mean, that was another thing too. That was a mistake I made out of my Naples layout. I had stuff so far away from my reach. Like I had bench depths of 36, 39 inches. Well, my fucking arm ain't 36-inch long. So I couldn't get, and like a dumbass, I put the tracks near the wall. I had to use one of those fucking extension hand things, to pick up train cars if they derailed, because I couldn't reach them. And I'm thinking, what the fuck was I thinking, Now here I'm doing the opposite. Now, my second level is only 18 inches deep. My tracks are going to be forward for the most part, except over here where the yard is. The yard will take up the whole 18-inch depth of the bench, or nearly much anyway. So, but at least I can reach it, Same thing with the lower level. I didn't make the lower level so deep that I couldn't reach in most areas. So, you have to plan for that stuff as well. Otherwise, you need all that fancy equipment to get to it, Well, you look at Tom Grassyville, he's got 3 levels, He needs some of that stuff to get to his second and third level because it's up there, And he's a tall guy. I mean, it wouldn't even do me any good to have a ladder because I still wouldn't be able to reach it. But, yeah, right? Yeah, you'd have to be, don't try to be Stretch Armstrong. There you go. I mean, like I said, but if you have the right equipment for what you need, you're fine. If you have the room for it too. I mean, that's probably the real key to it, really, is the room. If I had gone with my original 20 by 40 layout, building, I would have probably had some of that stuff. I would have done things vastly differently. But I wound up with 11 by 32 instead. 12 by 32, actually. So, I had to change everything around to make it work. Now, if I ever win the lottery, I may buy another one of these and bolt it together. And then I'll have 24 by 32. Well, if I had that much money, I might just put 3 of them together, 36 by 32. But, I mean, I don't have the money for that, I wouldn't have had the money for 20 by 40 either. So, in a way, it kind of worked out good. I think my eyes were bigger than my wallet at the time. It sounded good. But after building this one, I'm thinking, damn, I spent a shitload of money on this. I would have spent twice as much on a 20 by 40 that I really didn't have. So, it all worked out for the best. And of course, the old saying goes, no matter how much you got, you always want more. If you had 100 by 100, you'd want an extra 100. You got 1,000 by 1,000, you'd want an extra 1,000. I mean, you're never happy with what you got realistically because you always want more, because you build out and it's like, all right, now what? I mean, fortunately, we kind of beat that by going multiple levels. I mean, it's a pain in the ass in some ways, but it solves the problem of space. You can't go out, go up. Now, will I ever go a third level? No, I won't do it. That would just be beyond common sense for me. But the 2 levels was fine, and it basically it kind of doubles my fucking my area. So instead of having a 12 by 32, technically I got a 24 by 32. You know, because I added that extra level. That works out in the end. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Russ. It's not that great, but I'm working on it. At some point I'd like to. I mean, I was watching. Well, you were there too this morning, I think. But um, Morning Brew, Dave Thurber. I was looking. I mean, his layout is just amazes me. He's doing a beautiful job on it, and I need to duplicate some of that stuff. I mean, he's got the detail which I'm lacking. You know, I need to, and I'm going to. It's just going to take time, and like I said, I got to get the track work done and get it all operational. Then I can start looking at, all right, what do I need to modify? What do I need to make more detailed? And I will do it. Assuming I have the time, of course. But if I live that long, but that's what really gets me. I mean, I've seen so many of these guys. They said Dave's one, Tom Kavicek, Tom's Trains and things. I look at their layouts, and I've seen Tom's layout up close because he only lives a few miles away, and I'm amazed at the detail that he's put into his layout. And I look at mine, and I'm going, "Look, man, I'm missing the boat here." I mean, mine's okay, but it could be so much more and so much better. But I have to learn to take more time with stuff, and that's my problem. I get in a rush. I want to see a finished product, and I don't take the time to look at the minor details and shit. I need to start doing that, and I will. The 3 levels would require model railroaders to be a contortionist to work. Well, that's true. I mean, in some cases, like I said, Tom Grassie's works out good because he's a tall guy, and he's got the room for it, and his is laid out nicely. That would not work for me. I'm too fucking short for one, and I don't want to have anything that's over my eye level. If I, like I said, if I did a 3rd level, it would be probably another 2.5 feet taller than the 2nd level. I wouldn't be able to see anything up there. I'd have to have a ladder or something, or a walkway that was elevated to be able to see what the hell was going on up there. And so I said I won't do a 3rd level. I did kick it around for a bit, and I'm thinking if I had lowered the initial 1st level, I dropped it down another foot, I could have gotten away with it. But I also wanted it to be high enough to where it'd be comfortable for me to work on. So it was all give and take either way. But this is fine. 2 levels is sufficient. If I can't get a good layout with 2 levels, then, it's just not going to happen then. But I think I will. So we'll see. I put too much detail into my scenery. You have to be able to say enough is enough too. Well, that's true. But, to some degree, I don't think there's so much, there's such a thing as too much detail, unless you get to the point where it's just plain gaudy, that's a word you don't hear much these days, but, and it would be hard to do on a model railroad to make something gaudy, but the details that's the finishing touch. That's what makes the layout, like having a bush in the right place, or, a rock or gravel bed. Having that stuff in the right place in the right amount is key to a beautiful layout, As I said, when I look at like Tom Kavicek or Dave Thurber, I look at their layouts and I'm going, that's fucking beautiful, They're not incredibly large. Well, Dave's is pretty large. He's got 2 or 3 levels. Yeah, he's got 3 levels, I think. But he's got his whole basement, basically, But it's not so large that he can't do it. And he's smart. He's doing a section at a time, He gets the section where he wants it, then he moves on to the next one. That's another thing I don't do. I'll jump around too much, don't get shit done. I need to say, all right, this is the area I'm going to work on. When it's perfect, then I'll move on to the next one. it's hard for me to do because I don't really think like that, you know. I'm like more multitasking, you know, like, well, I could do this and then jump over here and do that, jump over, but you really can't, you know. You need to concentrate on one area at a time, and when it's to your liking, then you move on to the next. And I say to your liking because that's the bottom line. Do you like it? It doesn't matter whether I like it or that guy likes it or that. You don't care what they like. Do you like it? It's your layout. That's all that matters, is that you like it, you know. But the problem is I'm kind of a detail guy too, to some degree. And I look at something and I mean, maybe I'm being too hard on myself, but I look, I'm going, I'm not happy with that. It lacks the detail that I really want, you know. Now some of the add-ons I did, like the the garbage dump, that I put a lot of detail in, and I'm happy with that. That looks good, you know. I've got the vehicles. I still got to put some men down because that's what I'm lacking now is figures. But I'll get figures at some point, paint them up right, and get them, you know, where they belong. But same thing with my cattle ranch down there. I put more detail in it than I did in everything else, and I'm happy with it. It looks good, you know. I have all the elements I want. I have farm equipment. I have a corral for horses. I have a corral for cattle, you know. I've got feed buckets and all the shit that I should have, you know. There's still a few things I need to do there detail-wise, but I'm much happier with that than, say, I am with some of the other things I've done. Now, my house, for example, I like that. It came out fairly good, and I did a pretty good representation of my property in scale form, you know. But there's other things here that are kind of sloppy, you know. I don't really like it, and I got to fix it. And I will, you know. And like I said, I got to start thinking a little outside the box and say, okay, what do you need to do to make this pop or stand out? And of course, I look at other guys, you know, everybody has their own ideas on things. And, you know, I won't lie to you. I'll copy an idea if I like it, you know. And if you like something I do, by all means, copy it. I ain't going to sue you over it. I don't think I could anyway. But, you know, but that's how you get your ideas. You look at what other people do and say, okay, I could build something like that. Or whether it be the exact same thing or just something similar. That's fine, you know. And that's why it's good to, you know, look see what other guys are doing too, because it gives you ideas. I said, you know, Dave, when he did his city scene, he's got his track buried, you know, in the road, which is fucking brilliant. I mean, it looks good, you know. I never even thought about doing that. Now, I don't have a city scene. I probably won't have one, so I can't really duplicate that, at least not realistically. Maybe on the second level I could do a small area, but on the bottom level, no, it's not going to happen. But I like the idea. It's brilliant, you know. And it adds a total amount of realism into it that you don't normally see on a model railroad. You know, same thing with his bridge scene. Yeah, everybody loves that. He's got the lottery sign there with, you know, the lottery totals. And I mean, that's fucking beautiful, man. It looks good, you know. And every time I see it, I'm thinking, damn, he does a good job, you know. And I could do that too, but I just never thought of it, you know. And plus, once again, I get in too much of a hurry. I need to modify my own thinking. And like I said, I'm going to do that. And I'm really going to start mostly on the second level for now. Once I get the track laid down, I'm going to say, all right, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to build it. And I'm going to get those details in there, you know. So when I have my scrapyard, I'm going to have more detail than I had in the old one. It was okay, but it wasn't perfect, you know, or even close. So I'm going to, you know, this thing locked up on me again. So I'm going to look into that stuff and modify my own thinking on that. So we'll see how it goes. And I hope there's, you know, I can build something that I'll be proud of and that some of you guys will admire, you know. I mean, hey, I don't mind, you know. And like I said, I look at some of your layouts, man, I'm going, you guys are fucking good, you know. And everybody, I think, does a beautiful job on their layout, you know. if it works for you, it's great. And you know, if I was a guy looking outside, looking in from the outside, I'm thinking he did a good job on that. Could he have done better? Maybe, but it doesn't matter. He's happy with it, and I like what he did. You know, and I may pick up details from you as well. So I have to put much more work into my O-scale details. They are seen easier by the viewer, more in your face. That's true. Yeah, the bigger the train, the tougher it is to get all that stuff done. Yeah. All right, Gerald. Well, thanks for popping in, man. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week. And you know, have a good weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which leaves you wide open. Good night, Gerald. Um, yeah, I wish I could have went with O scale because I really do like the O scale better than all, but the reality is I couldn't afford it, you know, and I would want a lot of real estate to do it. If I'd have had the money, which I don't, but if I had the money, I would have went with like maybe a 30 by 30 or even a 40 by even a 50 by 50 building. Went with O scale, and with that kind of room, I could have built a hell of a layout. But you know, it had $100,000 into it by the time I got done. You know, I don't have that kind of money, and I probably never will. And even if I did now, it's too late. But you know, so but yeah, I mean, but details are everything, and they always have been and always will be. You know, it's what separates us from the kids. You know, anybody could throw down a circle track and run a train, but when you start building structures and landscaping and all that stuff, that's where you shine. You know, and it's all based on the details. How accurate is it? How realistic is it? You know, does it pop? And if it does, well, you've done your job. But if anyone is looking for a Helix, there's one for sale in Ohio, but they won't ship. Prices for what's built. And they won't ship, though. That sucks. I mean, if you live in Ohio, that'd be great, but I ain't driving up to Ohio for a Helix. Hell, it'd be cheaper for me to buy one. I'm probably going to make one. Tom Grassi gave me one of the extra pieces for the Helix and one of the uprights or verticals. I can duplicate the verticals on a 3D printer. So I could print those, you know, I can't remember what they're called, but the part that stands up. And the other one, it's poster board, you know, the thicker poster board. They call it gator board, but you can go to a dollar store and buy the same thing. It's just a different color. Actually, I think they even have it in black. You cut it out. You know, I'll have to cut it with a knife instead of a laser, but as long as I got a template, I can duplicate it. And I'll like I said, I'll build my own, you know, and save a ton of money. Because I looked at buying one, and for what I need, I was looking at, you know, right around $400. And I'm thinking that's a lot of fucking money, you know. And that's not even including the track. That's just for the Helix itself. So that's a lot of fucking money, man. But if anybody's near Ohio and needs a Helix, they should probably look at that. That's a good deal. Hey, Willow Creek Industrial Spur. How you doing, Willow? Good to see you here. Would not be caught well exactly for either party involved. That's true. I mean, it's just too big to ship. Even when you break it down, it would cost. Especially if it's a wooden one. Do you imagine what that would cost? You'd almost have to ship that by truck freight. You know, even if you collapsed it, it would still cost you a fortune. Like I said, you could buy one cheaper. But if you live in the area, well, that's a good deal, you know. All you need is a little trailer to haul it on, or a pickup truck probably, and you're good to go. So, yeah, like I said, you don't usually see those for sale. That's kind of weird, but I guess, you know, people die or they get out of it and you gotta sell it, you know. That's the only thing that sucks, you know. Like I said, we're all gonna die at some point, and They just, well, Tom, I don't know if you've seen it. They had a estate sale here in Sebring. I didn't go to it because I didn't have any money. And I'm thinking, I'll just get pissed off. I can't buy shit, you know. But he got some good deals on some the blue boxes and stuff. But the guy must have died. He said he didn't have a layout. Maybe he did, and they sold it or they dismantled it. But they had all these train cars and locomotives, a lot of I can't think of them other trains that they're from England or someplace, but and all this stuff, you know, they were selling pretty cheap. And see, because he called me up, he said, "You want to check it out?" I said, "You know, Tom," I said, "I appreciate it, but I can't afford anything. You know, I just don't have the money. You know, because you know, to me, if I go there, I'm gonna want to have at least $100, at least. You know, maybe two or three, and I'm gonna buy some shit. But the reality is, I don't really need anything. Yeah, that doesn't mean I don't want things, but do I need anything? No, not really. You know, I mean, I need an Amtrak passenger loco that I do need. You know, and I'll get one at some point. Um, Short of that, that's really the only thing I need. You know, I have pretty much everything else, and what I don't have, I could probably print, at least as far as structures go. So you know, it's not a big thing, but like I said, I'm just at that point where I just don't have a ton of money to spend anymore. Ray says, if I was closer, I would do it, but just wanted to post for someone that may want one. Well, that's true. Like I said, if you're in or near Ohio, it'd be worthwhile to get. But you know, like here in Florida, it's not worth driving up there. I mean, the money I'd spend in gas both ways, I could buy 3 helixes. You know, and it wouldn't make sense. Chuck says, good looking helix at a very good price. Thanks for posting. All right, so Chuck may be interested in it. That's cool. Ray said it's a part of a club layout, and they are rebuilding a new layout, and the helix is for sale. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure there's probably plenty of people that'll jump on that, you know. I said if they're close to the area, it's worth it. But if you live, you know, 1,000 miles away or 500 miles away, it's probably not worth doing. I mean, it might be. I didn't see it, so I don't know. But I personally wouldn't do it. You know, like I said, I'm sure I could build one or even buy a new one cheaper than it would cost me in gas to go to Ohio and get one. You know, if they were giving it away, it still wouldn't be worth my time in gas because I'm too far away. But you know, that's me. If somebody here in Florida had one, I may look at that. You know. I can go almost anywhere in the state for around, you know, 50, $60 in fuel both ways. And if the price is right and they had one that was usable, oh, hell yeah, I'd buy it, you know. But that's unlikely, I guess. Anyway, guys, it's almost 9:30. I think we're going to wrap this up. Got a few more minutes to go. 6 minutes to kill. Anybody want to talk about anything before we wrap up? And now's the time to speak up or, you know, forever hold your peace. Well, maybe not forever, but until next week anyway. I can't think of anything else to talk about. I think we talked a little bit about trains today, didn't we? And it's getting tougher and tougher to do sometimes. Russ says, I have been in the hobby for 53 years. Need is a very tall order now. I'm kind of picky about what I buy and mostly secondary market. You're not alone, Russ. We're all getting in that same boat. I mean, it's ridiculous the prices they're getting for this stuff, the new shit, you know. Fortunately, the used stuff is still reasonably priced for now. Doesn't mean it'll be that way forever, but for now at least, you said you could buy your secondary market items at a decent price, you know. I said I have no issue with buying a used locomotive. You know, as long as it's not completely beat and the price is decent on it, I'll buy it. You know, do I need to spend $300 on a brand new one? No, not at all. You know, do I have 300 to spend on a new one? No, not at all. So if I get a used one for say 150 or 175, fuck yeah, I'll do it. You know, and it's in decent shape, I'll take it. And I mean, I've found that most of the model railroaders take pretty good care of their stuff. You know, I mean, some of course weather their stuff, and I wouldn't be adverse to buying weathered equipment, but I prefer it to look more new because I don't really like weathering locomotives. I mean, I understand that for realism, it's kind of a neat thing, but I don't know. On my railroad, I expect the motherfuckers to wash the things once in a while. You know. Yeah, call me picky, but yeah, that's just the way I am. Now the train cars, I don't care. I'll weather some of my cars, and I'm still learning how to do it properly. But when I get good at it, I've got the pan pastels here and clear coat, dull coat, and I'll start weathering all the fucking train cars. I'll have some that look new, but I'd like some of them to look a little beat up too. So we'll see. Model trains are essential items. Well, if you're a model railroader, hell yeah, they are. Hard to have a working railroad without train cars. Jim going to try the Tam Valley Depot 5-amp booster, going to move my DCC accessory bus line. Have 2 of them to this booster. Hopefully they'll all work on this booster. I hope so. I don't know much about it, Tom, so I can't be much of a help for you, but you seem to know a whole lot about that stuff, and I'm sure you've got it figured out. And I'm sure it will work just fine for you. So, But I really couldn't help you on it because I just don't have that much knowledge of it, Kind of hate to admit that, but it's true. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I don't know everything. Now, we'll have to see how that goes, but I'm sure you'll get it figured out, though. So, next week, hopefully you'll see some work being done in here. Like I said, tomorrow I'm definitely going to Home Depot. I'm getting the foam and plywood. The plywood's pretty cheap because it's not even 1/4 inch. It's like an 1/8 inch. And I think I saw it for like $22 a sheet. And so I should be able to get maybe 1 sheet of plywood and 2 sheets of foam. And that's so 1 sheet will cover 16 foot lengthwise. So I'll be able to go 32 feet, which I'm still going to be short, I think. I probably need 4 sheets, but maybe next month I can afford to buy the other 2. And I've got some, like I said, I've got some of the plywood down. And I actually don't need it everywhere, and it's so thin that I could just use the foam on top of the framework, and it really won't make a difference. We'll see. I'll figure it out either way. Like I said, I really appreciate Sparky throwing the dough to me, and we'll get that straightened out pretty quick. And then once that's down, then I could really start building again, And I'll get trains running on. I guarantee you next week I'll have trains running on the layout, one way or the other. Wants and needs are very different. Yes, they are, right? Like I said, things I want, secondary. Things I need, it's a smaller list, and I'm not in a big hurry for it. But, and I'll tell you, even some of the things I want are really not even that much of a priority. I mean, I could print a lot of the stuff that I want, But I've got to stock back up on filament. I'm almost out of filament. And I've got plenty of white resin now. I bought a 6-pack of resin. So some of the smaller things it's better to resin print anyway. But like structures or train cars, I like to print on the filament printer. They come out nicer, and I got to get more filament. So I don't know when that'll happen because I'm going to be working with a smaller budget now. But that's fine. I'm not complaining. So but I'll have enough to keep me busy probably for the next couple of months, just with what I have. And I said I got all the track I need. I got turnouts. I've got coupling joiners. I got plenty of wire for feeders and shit. I've got the wire for the bus lines. I'll be busy for a while. Russ says, I am well stocked on trains after 5 decades. That's true. 50 years, that's a long time to be in the hobby, man. But that's a good thing, though. Ray says, same here, Russ. Only short on turnouts. Have to figure out which ones to order. I got tons of turnouts. So I shouldn't have to buy any track at all. I've got plenty of flex track. I got some curved tracks. I think I've still got some 9-inch straights too. And I've probably got 30 or 40 turnouts, different directions and whatever. So I should be fine on all that stuff. And if I do need them, I might just buy used ones, you know. We'll see. Do you have any videos on your landfill project? I think I did do one. It should be posted on my channel. I'm pretty sure I did something on there because I tried to. I didn't put a lot into it, but it came out much nicer than, you know, I mean, it came out better than I thought it would. And mostly because I had the vehicles and the dumpsters and, you know, the area itself, the landfill itself came out pretty good. So check it out, look for it. I don't have a link for it, but go to my channel, you'll see it. It won't be too far back, so. Oops. Count. What cleaning out the outhouse doesn't count, Jim. I don't know about that, but I appreciate that, Russ. Like I said, and I'm going to do more videos too when I'm doing the rest of this. I got to get my sub count up. I mean, just because, you know, kind of more of a personal thing than, you know, but I'm not putting enough content out there and I need to do more. So I'm going to document a lot of the stuff I'm doing as I'm doing it, you know. May not be too fancy at first, but, you know, for beginners, it'll be great. And for those that, you know, are seasoned, you might pick up an idea off me. You never know. All right, guys. Well, look, it's after 9:30, so I'm going to wrap this up. Appreciate y'all coming here. Once again, we talk about all kinds of shit. And I'll see you next week. Have a fun and safe weekend. Happy Easter to everybody for those who adhere to that. And tomorrow's Good Friday, so enjoy that as well. And we'll see you next time. So here's the outro, and don't remember to flip off the signal guy. Very important to do that. He may get the idea one of these days.